the youngest niner in Uzbekistan. And something else you guys should probably know about him, he is the guy with SAT 1600.
You go to the US and you come back, now you're westernized. People say, oh, you're not Uzbek anymore. You're an American now. And once you go to America, people say, well, you're an Uzbek. You're not American. Like, I always try to establish I'm the best, or I'm this, I'm that. But then I'm like, now I did all this talking, now I need to back it up.
Does that chatter ever get too loud to the point that you have no control and it starts controlling you?
She would just slap me behind the head and she would say, do it again. And then I would start crying. And then she would say, if your tear drops on this notebook, you're gonna go get a new one and you're gonna redo it.
The island I was staying at, and I spent the entire summer working, and I did not take a single day off. And I guess that's what you call immigrant work ethic.
A fun fact, it was all with British Council. No IDP. So I took 17 exams.
So you got a beef with IDP or what?
They say, how much preparation do you need for the SAT? How much preparation do you need for this? I don't think you should prepare like SAT 3 months. You give yourself a personality in your thing. It's personal branding. You need it. So you took the exam first. Your score, and you should be officially the first 9. So why not fight for that title?
Hey folks, hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Astra Muse. I'm your host, Muhammad Ali here. Today, I'm going to be talking to another awesome guest. And the person I'm going to be talking to is the youngest niner in Uzbekistan. And something else you guys should probably know about him, he is the guy with SAT 1600. So if you would like to find out more about SAT and IELTS and all of that, please keep watching. All right, without further ado, meet Mr. Bobirjon Bakhtiyorov. Mr. Bobirjon, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right, would you like to tell our audience a little about yourself?
Yeah, of course. I mean, my name is Bobirjon Bakhtiyorov. I have IELTS 9, as mentioned, and SAT 1600.
Wow. I just got to say wow here. How do you even do that?
I'm originally from Samarkand, a region in Samarkand, actually, a bit far from the city. But a little just a biography about myself, just to keep it going. I was there until 2014. So when I was about 10 years old, my family and we moved abroad to the US. So my, I guess, teenagehood was spent in the US from 2014 until now. So, but I flipped back and forth between the education systems because sometimes my parents would say, oh, the US education is a bad influence on you. Come back, come back and forth. So I had that like instability for some time until my high school years. But that's just a little bit about myself. And I study currently at Johns Hopkins University, which is, depending on the website you look at, top 10 in the world.
So how did that experience feel going, back and forth? So studying in the US for some time and then Uzbekistan. Well,
I think it was just a major change for me. Like the first time I moved to the US, the thing was I had language problems. So since I couldn't speak, but overall I was always a good student, like top of my class type of student. Academics just came easy to me. But when I first moved to the US, I think I was a little out of place. I went from being an extrovert to being an introvert, didn't have friends. The only thing I was really good at, though, ahead of all my classmates, was math. Surprisingly, every single time I moved education systems, the STEM field in Uzbekistan was much stronger than the STEM field in America, because I would learn chemistry, physics, and other stuff here much earlier than I would learn in the US. So every single time I flipped education systems, like that timeline was really crazy because I would shift from learning one thing to learning something else. So I guess the biggest shock I had was what I was learning. And socially, I would say, it was also really, really tough because once you go to the US and you come back, now you're westernized. People say, oh, you're not Uzbek anymore. You're an American now. And once you go to America, people say, well, you're an Uzbek. You're not American. So I always had that, I guess, identity crisis because of that moving back and forth, that even now people tell me I'm too American when I'm here, but when I'm in the US, people tell me that you're too Uzbek. So I don't know where I stand, what I am in terms of that identity.
You know what? Actually, before we started the podcast, I heard you speak Uzbek on the phone with your friend, and I could not tell you're American. I could not, because your Uzbek accent is so flawless, right? And you actually have that kind of Uzbek demeanor when you talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Hey, listen up. You better come here fast. All right, go and get Yandex. That manner of talking just remind me of the regular Uzbeks I see talk on the phone.
I think that has a lot to do with me coming back and forth, because unlike my siblings, I did come back and forth. But if you were to hear my siblings, on the other hand, their Uzbek would be 4 words in Uzbek, 2 words in English. They cannot form a complete sentence in English without, in Uzbek, without using English. And they have a really bad accent. But me, I am good in Uzbek because I still talk to my parents in Uzbek, grandparents, friends, just because I have that connection. But I think a lot of people kind of lose that once they move abroad. They lose that connection and they don't usually use their language anymore. But no, I think I am pretty fluent so far. I haven't lost any touches with my culture or language as of now.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous here, because every time I talk on the phone with my brother who's in the US now, and sometimes when I'm talking, my mom happens to be standing there and she starts asking me stuff, right? And I have to switch to Tajik, right? And my brother, when he hears that, like, what the heck? What's wrong with you, buddy? Go and fix your accent. Yeah. It just feels weird.
Yeah. I think that was a problem with me after my first year in college. Last year, when I went away to Johns Hopkins, it's actually away from home. So my home is in New York City and it's in Baltimore. So once I moved to Baltimore, I would just give a 10-minute, 15-minute call to my parents on the weekends because I was so packed during the week. I had no Uzbek, Tajik, Russian communication at all, only English. And at some point when I would return to New York and every 2 to 3 months, I would start seeing that, meaning there would be just some things I just forget what it is in Uzbek. I would tell my mom like, oh, I want that, but I was like, what was it in Uzbek? And slowly that started going away until I returned for a 3-month summer vacation to Uzbekistan last year. But at the end of last year, in about 9 months, I had lost so much of my language and that fluency that I had before. And like I started to realize like, hey, like I need to keep in touch with it, or else like language is something like, it's like a memory, like that just kind of goes away once you don't lose it. Once you don't use it. But yeah, I think that is a very interesting thing.
So as someone who's studied both in the US and Uzbekistan, so how do these two education systems differ? Right, apart from the STEM part. And surprisingly, a lot of the natives I talk to, Americans and people from other countries who've been on the podcast, they tell me how, behind the STEM subjects here in Uzbekistan are, and you're telling me the opposite.
Okay. I think there's 2 factors with this. It might be a little controversial, but I will say it. It's that the teaching system in Uzbekistan is really bad. It's flawed, meaning that sometimes the teachers aren't as professional as they should be, or not trained to the level they should be. Now, why do I say that? When you pick up any book, 7th grade, 8th grader book, in Uzbekistan, you learn about 20 to 25 subjects per year. It's crazy. You take both physics, chemistry, geometry, trigonometry, everything at the same time. So once I think it was 8th grade, once I returned from the US, because before that, I think I was 5th or 6th grade when I was in Uzbekistan. But once I returned, I went from learning 6 to 7 subjects per year to learning 20 subjects per year. It was crazy. So I could barely basically take in all that information because there's a 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade books per subject. And if you were to really follow that timestamp that Uzbekistan has set on you and study those 20 subjects of 7th grade in a given year, then you would be much smarter than any American. Now, just one thing that I can do is 9th, 10th, 11th grade, when I was in the US, every single year I would take 1 math subject and 1 science subject. So freshman year, I took Algebra 1, Living Environment. Then I moved to Geometry and Chemistry. But in here, they teach you everything at once, which is why I think a lot of students cannot comprehend them or learn them thoroughly. In the US, they give you less subjects so you can have more time to master them before moving on to the next one. So in terms of that, it differs. However, if the teaching system was a bit better, meaning that like teachers were more effective in their teaching, I think I think Uzbekistan would be way ahead of other countries. But I think after a certain grade, that strictness goes away, the teaching goes away, and students kind of just, because I remember back in like 8th, 9th grade, I was go play soccer with friends a lot of time. They'd be like, oh, no lesson today. And I don't like, there would be some subjects like chemistry. There would be a lab part. Like we need to go to a lab. There's no lab in my school. And they'll just be like, oh, it's okay. We can just watch videos later. And you would never watch those videos. So like in terms of that, I think it's less strict in Uzbekistan. But in the US, I think it was so much more strict, meaning that you can be left behind. In Uzbekistan, I think they have something called like no student left behind. Even though it's not official, they have it. Students are not left behind. In the US, they'll leave you behind. You're not up to standards. That's it. You're done. Like you're just going to move back down and still repeat the same grade over and over again, basically.
So over there, you get to choose what subjects you study, right? You said I picked math and environmental science, so they're all selective.
Okay. First of all, it depends on the high school you go to. But for most of the part, you can choose. There are some things you cannot choose. There are some core subjects that you must meet. For example, in order to graduate, you must take 3 science classes. It doesn't matter which science you take. You can choose the science you want. You must take 4 math classes. Again, you can choose which one you want. So in terms of that, sure, you have that flexibility to choose what you want. Another fun fact was that in my high school, I was part of the law house because I'm really interested in law. I want to be a lawyer in the future. So just being that, I had a pre-law. So every semester I would take a new law class. So first semester, it was introduction to law. And then it was constitutional law. And then it was civil law. So I had that really specialty starting from high school. I had that opportunity. Maybe it was just 1 class per semester, but I think that was enough to test if I had interest in that field or not. Because a lot of kids usually go into college or university not knowing what they want to do. They're just like, I don't know, I'll figure out later. But I think in the US, with that specialty that you have the ability to choose the subjects you want to take, you can make that basic decision a little early on. This is something they don't have in Uzbekistan because no matter, I guess, if you go to a public school in Bukhara or Samarkand, you're going to find the same transcript with the same subjects for most of the time because it's standardized throughout Uzbekistan. But in the US, every state differs, every school differs in the classes that they have. But yeah, that's pretty much the overall system that they have.
It can't be all bad here in this country, right? Are there any, upsides to getting education here in Uzbekistan? What are some, sides of Uzbekistani education you wish you had over there in the US?
I guess I'll talk about some things that I wish I had and some things that isn't that well. Is one thing I really like when I was here is I guess you have more social life at school or other places. And in terms of social life, but in terms of academic, let me really think here. Because in terms of academic, okay, there's if I have to go really, really in depth into the lessons that they had in Uzbekistan, they had I think in Uzbek, they call it mehnat darse. It means it's work, like you can literally go do gardening and other stuff. Those things are some things you need in life that you really don't have in America. And another thing in here is still, I love about it. I know students hate it here, but they tell you, make sure your hair is in a nice haircut, make sure your nails are cut, make sure you have this next to you. In terms of etiquette, I think Uzbek students are way ahead of American students. They have more etiquette. They have more, I guess, they're more strict on the education system. Even if you're not gonna learn that day, do you have your tie with you? Are you in the perfect attire to be at school in the first place? So in terms of just adopting a culture and being very respectful, learning manners, because you have a whole class called, I think it was every Monday, our first class used to be madaniyat, meaning learning how to actually have that etiquette and talk to people, something you don't learn in the US, but something you do learn here. So one thing I still value really much when I'm in the US is the way I talk to others and respect others and the manners I have. I mean, I thank my parents for that also, but I think the education system in here does have that effect on others. But there's one side I do want to say is really bad here. One thing is, I believe, okay, first of all, you have the same classmates for 9 or 11 years. I think that thing I didn't like here. Because in the US, you don't have that. Like you change schools in 5th grade, after 5th grade, you change school after 8th grade, and every single class you go to is different kids. It's different classmates. You're constantly changing environment, constantly changing people. And that gets you more ready for life, I think, because you have so many interactions just on a school basis. But in here, you're stuck with the same people for 9 to 11 years, depending on your education system. But I just didn't like that. Every single time I would come back here, it was the same people, same thing. And I was just but every time I would go back to the US, no matter what grade it was, I would be in the new environment. I would just be thrown somewhere else. And it's like survival of the fittest. Like you go, you survive, new competition. Like I survive on competition. Like if I don't have competition, I think I would like literally crumble. Like the whole education I had, whether I was in Uzbekistan or America, I always found myself somebody to compete with. If I didn't have that, I don't think I would be where I am today without competition.
So why do you think competition is so important for your personal growth?
I think to some extent, like I know there people say like, oh, like don't compare yourself to others. Like everybody has a different time clock. I don't believe that. I think it's something my father has instilled on me. He told me when I was a kid, he said, when you do something, you're either the best at what you do or you don't do it at all. He kind of like every single dinner conversation we had revolved around that. My father would say, because he was like a singer and a musician at that time. And during his musician era, he was the best. And he always said like, you always have to be the best at what you do or you don't do it at all. And then he used to tell me, one time I went to I think it was in 1st grade, I went to basically onatele, I think it was just handwriting contest in 1st grade. We went to the contest. I got 2nd place. And then my father said, I came back. I was really excited. I was like, I got 2nd place because I went to the whole Samarkand region. I went through so many steps. And my father said, why not 1st? And then I said, well, 2nd is really good because like I made it that far. And he said, well, what did the person in front of you did that you didn't do?
Wow.
And then he was like, so he was like, there's something that you can do. Like, he was like, you just didn't do something that you were supposed to. Like, if somebody outworked you, then like, that's your goal now, to make sure you work so hard that you cannot be outworked by others. So I think that my father had a lot of influence on the way like my personality shaped, and like I always compare myself to others.
You do? Which someone you compare yourself to?
He's sitting in this very room right now. He was the first youngest Niner. And first of all, with my IELTS thing, I didn't get the 9 until he got a 9. Because until that point, I didn't really see anybody competition in my age. Of course, I saw others getting it. And I was just like, well, I'm a student at Hopkins. Like, I'll admit this. I'm a little egotistical and a little like arrogant in that sense. But and then once we went into the same exam and he scored a 9 and then we came out, when the results came out, I was so happy for him because he's my best friend. Like I was the first one. I found out before him because I had access to a computer that saw all the scores, and I saw it. I sent it to him. I was the one announcing on my channel. I was so happy for him for a good 10 minutes. After that, it kind of just hit me. It just kind of hit me.
I like
I was
honesty.
really, I was so happy for him for the first 10 minutes. And then my mood just went really bad. I was supposed to pull out all-nighter that day doing something related to admissions. I couldn't do anything. I just couldn't think anymore. I was like, all summer, I worked for a 9. And Sukhrov, who wasn't even thinking about IELTS, he didn't even care. He was forced to register by somebody else. He didn't even want to take the exam. Goes in and takes the exam that I really wanted to get a 9 in, and he gets a 9. And I'm over here. And when I called my mentor saying, hey, like Sukhrov got a 9. He didn't hear me well. And he said, you got a 9? And I'm like, no, Sukhrov. And he's like, are you sure it's not you? And then everybody. And then that kind of spiraled. And that day I came home, reflected. Next day for 2 weeks straight, I just gave it all in. 10 hours, 8 hours a day, writing, because I knew that was my weakness. I literally the next day I scheduled my IELTS exam. His result came out, if I'm not mistaken, late December. And then I scheduled my exam for January 17th, if I'm not mistaken, in New York City. I was like, I don't care. I'm not returning to Uzbekistan until I get 9 in this IELTS exam. And I studied for 2 weeks straight. put it all in, and then I was able to score 9 with 8.5 writing. And after that, I was like, okay, like, and then I was like, now I took the spotlight. Now I'm the youngest niner now because he's 2.5 months older than me. I set a goal for myself saying I must get this 9 in the next 2.5 months and claim the title from him for achieving the score from him. So in terms of IELTS, I everything. We compare ourselves in everything. Me and Suhrab, we're best friends, partners when it comes to like business and other stuff. Just everything you can think of. Even like, for example, for the podcast, I was like, well, I have this best friend and he's the youngest niner, and it would be great if you have him also. So everything, like when an opportunity arises, he refers me or I refer him, and we're always in this constant competition, this healthy competition. And we're both okay with it. Same thing with SAT, same thing with applying to universities. We did all of them together. So I think when I found out in 2021, it was probably the best thing that I've done, like finding somebody who I can compete with and who actually likes the challenge and likes that competition.
You guys kind of remind me of younger me and Alicia. Like we always used to be like that. We secretly competed with each other, but it was never, out open. So we knew we needed each other to push each other, but not to the point where, we'd hate each other. Not to the point you're good with your friend getting band 9 for a good 10 minutes and then crumble. Not I guess that competitive. Because at some point competition starts sort of, backfiring because, when you're all stressed out about not being the first, I don't know, it puts you in so much stress and anxiety. I don't think I'm actually the exact opposite of you. I do like competition, but at the same time, I want to be able to put my mind at ease and make sure I'm in full control and that I don't let my ego get the best of me. Yeah.
I think I am the total opposite, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
For example, if I have a big plan, I'm taking an exam, something's happening, I tell everybody. I make sure all of my students know when I'm taking an exam. I make sure all of my friends know when I'm taking an exam. Because I like the pressure. If I don't have the pressure, I cannot study. I can't focus.
I see.
So if I don't like that ease. Like if I am at ease, if I register for an exam and nobody knows, I don't have the pressure to perform well. But when I know everybody is watching and everybody knows I'll take the exam, that pushes me. And I say, well, and now I have to perform because now all of these people know if I don't do well, what will these people say? So that pushes me. So people tell me like, why do you do that? Why do you always you're not supposed to tell your plans to others. You're not supposed to say you're taking an exam. What if it goes? I tell them, well, if I don't, then I won't study. I simply won't. I won't have the discipline to do it. So that's why I like this thing that I am a little egotistical and arrogant because I always try to establish I'm the best or I'm this, I'm that. But then I'm like, now I did all this talking. Now I need to back it up. Like I need to do something to back it up. If I don't, then all of those was just talks and nothing, no action. So I love the fact that I say what I do or I am arrogant because that pushes me to say, now you have to back it up. Or else like you're just a big mouth who just talks but doesn't have any results behind those talkings.
I mean, that makes some sense. I remember watching a podcast with Alex Hermosi, and he talked about a quality that most high achievers have in common, and that's superiority complex. So they think they're better than other people, and then they deserve more. But one other quality they have is this crippling sense of insecurity. Do you have that?
Okay. Deep down, yeah, probably. I think so. Because
like you're never enough.
That's the ripple effect. You're never enough. Like for example, growing up, I was really, really obese, like really, really like to the far end. So like I remember being like at the age of like I guess 12, I was like 70 kilograms, like really, really big. And at that time, like I had this body, so everything was going well in my life in terms of academic, social, but that kind of kept me always down. And when I even did eventually break out of that obese zone, no matter how much I look better or anything else, even physically, mentally, academically, no matter how much I do, it's never enough for me anymore. Like I'm always like for example, like in terms of IELTS, it was 8.5, SAT was 1580. I still had the highest in Uzbekistan. Like I didn't need the 1600, but I was like, well, there is that room for that perfect score. I need to get it. And now I do have it. Now I'm like, okay, what's next? Now I need to go to the IELTS. I need to do this. I'm always telling myself like, it's not enough. Like you're not enough. Like there's always somebody better than you. Like, okay, you're in Uzbekistan flexing on people saying you have 1600 plus SAT, you have 9 in IELTS, but there are people who are studying in Harvard or Stanford who are doing researches or contributing to this in society. Like, what are you doing? Like those questions that always kind of haunt me, saying like, are you really doing enough, or are you just fooling yourself to thinking that you're doing enough? So like, I'm always in a constant battle in my head. Like I always call Sukhrob and I'm like, hey, we need to do this. We need to do this. We're not doing enough. We need to increase on this. We need to do less on this. And like, I'm always in a panic mode. Like the time is not enough and we need to do it. And Sukhrob kind of like balances me in that perspective. He says, hey, relax. We can plan this out. We'll plan this out. Everything will be perfect. Like we can do this. And he kind of calms me down, because I'm always in that panic mode. And I'm like, hey, we need to go get an office. Where are we going to work? Are we going to be productive? Are we going to do this? Like just that constant like haggle I have in my head. And then I need that somebody to like calm it down. And Sukhrob usually calms that down for me. Like calms down saying, hey, like.
Does that chatter ever get too loud to the point that you have no control and it starts controlling you? Because it's clearly not healthy. Because you need to pump the brake every now and then, unless you want to, burn out.
Yeah. I think I did realize that I needed to, because once it gets too much, you don't make any progress.
Like when you reach a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, exactly. When you start overthinking and when you put too much on your plate that you cannot handle, because that's what something it leads to. When you're always panicking, saying you're not enough, it leads to actually everything being too much, actually. Not about being enough. Because I remember back in November, December, we had started something in admissions that was taking so much of my time. I was a full-time student studying at Johns Hopkins, which is really, really hard and it's time demanding. Besides that, I had like social things. I had so many things going on at the same time. I had SAT courses online. I had these courses. I was studying. I was a student, teacher, and all of these things at the same time that I just broke down. Like I was like, I'm not making progress in anything. My grades started reflecting it. I went from a really good midterm exam to a really bad one. And I started to realize that I had so much on my plate that I wasn't putting my energy in one place. So I think it does get too loud sometimes in your head. It does get it. Like it does get there. But then I tell myself like, hey, like, okay, it does sound egotistical again, but I say, hey, and I start comparing to some people in my age. And I say, compared to them, I am much ahead. I am much better. Calm down. So even when I calm myself down, I am egotistical in calming myself down. But I think, like it does get a little too much sometimes, but I just have to keep that balance and just like sometimes forget, and for a whole day, just don't do anything. And just like I think the gym is my escape from all that. When it gets too loud, when everything that happens, gym is my escape. Because when I go to the gym, I just put my headphones on and I'm in that zone. And I'm just working on are my muscles being contracted? Is this happening? Like I'm just so out of like whatever the hell is happening that for those 2 to 3 hours, I have that escape. And then after I'm out, I go have a good meal. And then I'm like, okay, like now what's next? So I think I always see that gym sessions as my refreshers every day. And like that moment where I just forget about everything.
Right. And I'm guessing you attribute a lot of this to the way you were brought up, your upbringing.
Yeah.
And the fact that you had a strict dad.
Yeah. I wouldn't say he was strict. I would because I think he wasn't strict in that sense. Like, for example, in what sense was he strict? He never let me hang around with different friends too much. He would say, well, that kid is a bad influence on you. Don't hang out with him. Don't go near him. Try to do this, try to do that. My parents always occupied me with like schoolwork or other stuff, so I didn't have time for other things. Like I remember back in the first grade when I was in Uzbekistan, these are just like memories I have. I thank my mother for this, but she was a bit cruel in a sense that every day I would come back from school. My mom would make me do my homework and she would say, first, you do it in this notebook, practice notebook. I had a practice notebook. You write all the letters in this practice notebook. Once it's perfect, then you move it to the homework notebook. And then when it wasn't perfect, when I started making mistakes, she would just slap me behind the head and she would say, do it again. And then I would start crying. And then she would say, if your tear drops on this notebook, you're going to go get a new one and you're going to redo it. So those trauma I had was like that. I was like, it put this perfectionist mindset on me, I think. But after first grade, she didn't really care too much. She kind of like just like diverted her attention. But that first grade was when it mattered. That's when I was like going into education. And she put that, like, when I got a 4 at school here in Uzbekistan and I would come home, I would do everything my mom says. And then she'd be like, what is wrong? You're acting different. And I'd be like, I got a 4. And that day would be so bad because she would be like, she would talk, she would tell my dad, they'd be really strict. They'd be like, no, what are we doing all this to you for? Like, and like getting a 4 was the worst thing that happened to me. So I got this perfectionist mindset that I kept always a perfect score. Even in high school, I was at a school in the US, a high school with 1,100 students, and I was ranked 3rd out of 1,100 students. I had a 100.3 out of 100 GPA, over the limit. And all of these academic success, I do owe to my traumas and my mom. But talking about my dad and his strictness, I think he was just like, don't do this, don't hang around with this people. But every single day after dinner, 1 to 2 hours, he would just say like, you're not going to go anywhere. We're just going to talk every single day almost. Like every day he was home for dinner, he would stay and he would talk about it. He would be like, what are you doing? What are your plans? And he would tell me, he said, he told me this quote that everybody disagreed with. He said, never live in the moment, he said, you should always plan ahead. Where are you 5 years from now? Where are you 10 years from now? Always set a goal for yourself and work towards that. Don't be purposeless. Don't be aimless. You should have an aim. You should have a purpose. So he always instilled this thing like right now, what you're doing, like school, this is your job. This is what you're supposed to do. Like he made me like very stoic in a sense. But I do like those things that they did. It was really strict at that time. And I didn't like my parents at that time, saying like they're being too strict on me. They're stealing my childhood. Like I could be out with my friends. I could be doing this. But those times really did like set up who I am now. But I do thank them now, like for making me the person I am today.
Wow. I mean, sitting here listening to this, I feel like you were brought up in a military training camp.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like a soldier.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, and all aspects.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just, the entire time you were talking, I was reflecting on the way I was brought up, and I'm starting to think my parents were way too kind, way too easy on me. Yeah. Anyway, but I want to talk about one point you made. The quote your dad disagrees with, never live in the moment, right?
He said never live in the moment. Yeah.
Right. But don't you feel like this feeling of always missing out on something, right? It takes away from the moment you're having. So as someone who's trying to get everything right and be perfect, you need laser focus. And to have laser focus, you have to be able to, pull yourself together and only think about now what you're going to do tomorrow or the day after. So what's your take on that?
Okay, I think I'll mention 2 things here because it's really like fundamental to how I would like to that answer. Like I'll just give a little bit about myself, a little more. My father was a musician. He had a very luxurious lifestyle. My dad. All
right, let me look up your dad real quick. What's his name?
Bakhtiyorov and Nazarov.
You guys know?
No,
okay.
he was a piano, like he played the piano for about 10 years, and he was only a singer for 1 year, and then we moved to the US.
Oh, yeah.
But even when he was he was playing piano for some of these like very famous singers at the time. I'm not gonna mention them, but and he used to be at weddings every day. Very luxurious lifestyle, every day wedding. And then once we moved to the US, he started working as a moving person. He used to move furnitures from one place to another. He went from a very like no physical job required to working a physical job. And at night he would deliver pharmacy medicines. And at nighttime he would take me with him because if he didn't, they would put parking tickets on his car. So during the summers, I would go to pharmacy delivery with him. So we would go with his car, pick up medicines, and we would deliver them to different places in New York. And just so when he put his car in a unauthorized zone, in order to make sure he didn't get a ticket, he used to come with me. We had really big financial problems. And my mom, who was always a housewife, never worked a day in her life, she was now working also 2 jobs. She would, in the morning, go to her work, afternoon, come take care of me, my siblings, make food for us, and then leave for her afternoon, like 4 or 5 p.m., leave for another job. Me seeing that and seeing what they had sacrificed, I didn't want to live in the moment anymore. Once I saw that my dad was working 2 jobs, he sacrificed his luxurious lifestyle, he was pretty good, and he lost so much weight. Same thing with my mom. They were both just working day and night. There was no time for me or my siblings. So my sibling, for example, my brother, he's not really good in school because he didn't have the same pressure I did. Like he's just a borderline student. He doesn't really care about education. And because he didn't have my parents being strict on him. Back in Uzbekistan, they had a lot of time to focus on me. But once we went to the US, they didn't. They were so focused. And me being 11, 10, 11, 12, I saw through that they had sacrificed all that for me. So my goal at that time became like, my parents just sacrificed all this. So no, my goal is now not to not live in the moment, but go to that future with the mindset that I will be the best at what I do and make sure I pay my parents back for everything that they're doing for me. Because being an immigrant, I got everything I asked for. I tell my father, hey, Dad, I need a phone for school. All of my friends have this new phone. I don't have it. Like, he would be very strict. He would say no. But a moment later, he would be like, okay, I'll buy a new one. I'll give you mine just so you're not spoiled. But they would always make sure that they met with whatever I needed in terms of whether it was school. I was never in a moment where I felt less than others. And they made sure of that, even though I was an immigrant family in the US. And it was really, really tough. Life was tough. It was one room. So we were sharing an apartment with somebody else. In one room, it was me, my 2 siblings, and my 2 parents. So we would sleep in the same room until I was in 10th, 11th grade. For about 6, 7 years, all 5 people, my parents and I. It was, of course, awkward, weird, but no, you get used to it. And me seeing that and having to share a bathroom with like 10 people and having to share the same room with your parents and your 2 siblings until you're 18, like it does give you that mindset, like, hey, like, I have a goal here, like I need to do this. That's why, like, I don't think I never calm down. I'm always like, okay, what can I do next? What can I do next? So I think that, like, a little hardship I had in my life does make me believe that, hey, like, there's a hope for tomorrow. But in a sense, did I miss out on my childhood? I think I did a little bit, because there'll be times where I would have a baby sister and my parents would say, you're not going to go to any summer camps. You're at home looking after your sister. After that, you'll do your own work, homework, summer classes, all of that. So I didn't go to any summer camps. I didn't go to a lot of, like, just socially, I didn't do a lot. And I would be home a lot, which did contribute to that weight gain I said, and I was obese because I was home a lot. I would do good in school. I would look after my siblings, but I was always home. I wasn't the most, like, physically active person, which is why I did develop that sedentary lifestyle. But overall, like, that upbringing that did contribute to me being the person I am today. Yeah.
That was a long story.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff you're doing here is because you want to repay your parents one day.
Yeah, that is the goal.
And afford them a kind of life they didn't have.
Yeah.
Afford them a good life, a better life.
Yeah. I think, I don't want to make this stereotype, but I think it is true. A lot of times when you see people, even in Uzbekistan, in government places, it's not people from the city. Mm-hmm. It's people who come from rural places who have that drive to climb up. Same thing in the US. When you ask a US person, like, what salary would you be satisfied at in terms of that living style? They'll be like, oh, 100K is fine. And I look at my dad, who's an Uber driver, who drives taxi now. And I look at my mom, and my dad, being an Uber driver, he makes about 70, 80 grand, for example, a year, right? When I see that, my standards are much higher. I'm like, my dad, who doesn't speak English, who came into this country in his 30s, is doing this much. Me, who just grew up here all my life, if I do the same thing and get the same salary or this, like, that set a standard for myself that I always have to climb higher, and I could be much higher than where I am. Meaning I don't have that comfort. Like, if you have that comfort as a kid, you grew up in a city, you grew up in a good family, you grew up in a good life. Like, I don't think you would have that ambition. Like, it may be wrong. Maybe some people do still have it. Like, I may be wrong in terms of this, but I still believe that having that a little hardship or having something to climb up to and getting there, it's just a lot. Like, because it's something I see in Samarkand. Like, whenever I see government officials, they're always people from like the region areas, not the actual city, because they had that drive to climb up, in my opinion. Something that I could think, like, compared to myself, actually.
Yeah, I can actually relate to some of the stories you're telling me right now. I remember back in 2019 when I was in the US, I didn't really have much. I went there with practically, little money. And I used to work 3 jobs. I worked morning shift and afternoon shift and night shift. I get only 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and I worked the entire summer. Right. I went there on this program called Work and Travel, but I did zero traveling. I went there, I caught a bus from the JFK airport to the island I was staying at, and I spent the entire summer working, and I did not take a single day off. And I guess that's what you call immigrant work ethic. So I heard this phrase somewhere on the internet, on a podcast, I guess. So yeah, a lot of the super successful people, if you look at the CEO of Google, right?
Yeah.
The current CEO, he's an immigrant. And I remember watching one of his interview where he talks about his dad. Like how poor part of a family he comes from and how hard his parents had to work to send him to a good school. Yeah.
I remember his backpack costed his father's monthly salary.
Yes, that's exact interview I'm talking about.
Airplane ticket was like a 2-year salary or something. And calling back home was so expensive, he wouldn't call back, and he would call back rarely. Yeah, like that, like those stories, like I know them, and I do look into them, and I always tell myself I see a lot of these phrases online, like, does money give you happiness? Does money make happiness? Like all these things. And I think money gives you happiness because with that money, you bring happiness to the people around you, and that makes you happy. Like, for example, right now, if I were my father's job, if I retire them right now, and my dad wants to travel, and he never really did travel. So if I see him traveling and I see that he's happy, just give me a phone call every now and then, say, hey, thank you. Like, look where I am. Like, that will make me happy. And that's money making me happy because I gave that to them. So I think that like the relationship between money and happiness, like, a lot of people say like, oh, it doesn't make you happiness, but I think it does bring you a lot of happiness. Like,
why do you think there are so many super successful and super rich people out there who are not happy?
I think, okay, first of all, I want to say, how were they always rich, or did they then get rich? Because I think that if you always had money will not mean anything to you. No matter how much more you get, money will not mean anything to you because it's something that you always had. But if it's something you didn't have and you kind of got in like later in life, then that shows like that's something completely different. But to people who don't have it, because like people say, oh, like, you can't buy health with money, you can't buy this, you can't buy that. So I think it's like person to person condition, but I think majority of people who didn't have a lot of money and then get it, they're usually happy with where they are at that time. And when a lot of rich people tell me like, oh, like, money doesn't make you happy, I say, why don't you give it away then? Like, why don't you just give it all away? Like, why are you building this empire? Why are you going to work? Like, you're worth XYZ $1 billion. Just give your money away, give it to charity. Like, why do you need money? It doesn't make you happy. They don't. Why? They need more. Why? It does. They just don't want to. They just tell people it doesn't make you happy. Like, I disagree with a lot of these people say. I feel like they just want to say that to keep the low socioeconomic people and know that, hey, we're up here, but don't dream up here. We're not happy as well. But they're happy, in my opinion. Like, maybe when I'm there one day, I'll say the same thing. But as of right now, I tell them like, no, like, I'll still get up there.
Yeah. Right. But you know what? I feel like I used to be broke too, not long ago. I kind of still am. I don't want to say I'm. Okay. I'm not that, I guess. I don't have a ton of cash sitting on my bank account or anything. I'm still a broke. But after like a certain point, it makes very little difference how much more you make, right? Like, personally with me, as long as my belly is full and I got a nice house I live in, and I can afford to move around the city, I'm good. I do want to travel around the world, but I don't really want to be staying in a 5-star fancy hotel serves caviar for breakfast and gives you a massage every now and then for free. I mean, yeah, sure, why not? You might be thinking, but I mean, you're still fine without a lot of those luxuries, right? Are you doing that just to make yourself feel good for all the hard work you did in the past? Or is that something you genuinely desire? Or is it something you're doing because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses? Right? There's that question. Right? It's because the money problem. Yes, money does make you happy. I'm not going to lie. It at least solves your problems, right? Right? But it's not the be all and the end all. Right? You see? That's sort of a shallow thinking. And all those rich people who say money does not make you happy, probably saying that because they haven't solved the meaning problem, which can be solved by money. Like the reason to wake up in the morning, go to work, the reason to exist, that's not something you can solve with money. Right? Unless you have something internal within from inside, like a drive. Like the drive you have right now. There are thousands of billionaires out there who would pay billions of dollars to have this passion, to have this amount of desire, will. Yeah. I mean, some of them try TRT, but it doesn't really help, I guess. This exuberance and young energy, right? Yeah.
I mean, in terms of
because once you've tried all these luxuries in life, fancy vacations, right, and expensive cars, you start losing interest, right? And you have another problem, like a new problem. And that's the meaning problem. And that's something I've been personally struggling with. And that's the reason why I started this podcast, because I need that new challenge. I need to be more involved. I want to contribute, give back to my community, not because I'm not here because I want to make some extra cash. I could have done that long time ago, selling online courses, right? Or monetize this channel or start promoting some links in the description box. But I'm not doing any of those things because they don't simply align with my values, with the way I want to live life. You see? But I totally get that. I totally get this whole idea of not ever having to, seeing your parents work 3 jobs. Everyone wants to be able to retire their parents when they're 30 or 40. Yeah. Like those guys, Iman Gadzi. You probably know this guy in his story, right? Because you kind of remind me of that guy.
Yeah, he dropped out of high school when he was 17.
Yeah.
And now he shows off like how he retired his mom. That's important. But I don't know, like, don't you think that it's like human instinct that no matter how much we have, it's not enough? Like, I feel like it's not me thing. I feel like it's a human thing.
It is. It is human.
We always ask for it, right? We always ask for something. Like we say, even if you go to a religion, we say, "Oh, God, give me this." When you give it, you want the next best thing. First, you say, "Hey, let me get a bike," and then you say, "Oh, let me get a car," or "Let me get a better car," or "Let me get this." So it's a ripple effect, don't you think?
It is. Let me get a yacht. Let me get a helicopter. Let me get a jet.
Exactly.
Let me build a rocket. Let me send people to Mars.
Exactly. So do you think that, like, when you said you said, "Oh, like, as long as my belly's full, as long as like you have a good house that you're living in, and like your family is everything as well, you're good." Like you're saying you're good, but like really, like deep down, like, will you be satisfied at that point?
I still want money, and here's why. I'm not gonna lie. I do want money. I do so that I can. I don't want to sound sanctimonious, right? I do want this money because I want to do more good. Yeah, not just for my parents, but people out there.
And doing that good does bring you happiness.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is something that I I would like to think, like, once I have achieved that financial success and what I imagine as financial success, then I would like it to spread that around, like the people who came up with me on my upbringing, my community, because I am from a small village. I'm not like I, like growing up like small. Like I didn't grow up like I did grow up in Brooklyn, New York, but that was like later in like when I was 12, 13, 14. But when I was young, I was in still like school here. I went to everything here. I remember like we used to share an ice cream. And when you tell that to an American, they're like, "Ew, you share an ice cream? Like you guys both eat from the same like that thing is like out there, like, oh, germs, like these ideas are so different depending on where you are." But for me, like when I think of that, the nostalgia, like I tell myself, like, I don't know if I'm still gonna think this, but from myself, like 10 years later, I tell myself, you will raise your kids in Uzbekistan and you will create like a little bit of hardship for them to have character. Because I think that hardship does build character. Like that, like I think that's something. What's his name? The guy. I think you mentioned him earlier. He does podcasts as well. Alex.
Harmozy.
Yeah. No.
Or Chris
There's another guy
William?
who talks about those people. I think I don't know, but he's a podcast, and he said like hardship builds character, and I truly believe that. So even I tell myself like, you will raise your kids in a like in a village or something like that, and show them like the true value of money. Because like once you start making a lot of money, you start to spend it so much. Like one dinner you go spend like, let's say in Uzbekistan, like 300K 400K, but to some people like that is their like it's like 2 times of that is their monthly salary, and they have to make ends meet. Like there's so many different socioeconomics. And if you haven't experienced them or you haven't seen them, then you'll have that tendency to overspend or other stuff. So I always like tell myself like, have luxury, do all this, but don't forget where you come from, and don't forget that there's still people there where you come from. You made it out, but there are other people there. So like that's why I always tell myself once I retire, I'll become a teacher. Like I'll tell myself, because last summer I came here and I taught for 3 months only. I was teaching just IELTS, some other things, SAT, and I really loved it. Like I was like, this is my thing. I love teaching. Like coming to students, talking to them, inspiring them. I was like, this is my thing. But then I was like, being a teacher doesn't pay well. I was like, I'll put that aside for when I retire. And I'll go, I still love being a lawyer, but I was like, I'll go do that, make the cash, and later I'll come and make that, I'll give back to my community by teaching. I'll do this to my community by doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
I got 2 questions here. So you said that once I reach my definition of financial success, right? Would you be comfortable putting it out there?
Yeah.
What your definition of financial success is? Because you said you like it when people know what you're after.
Yeah.
That kind of puts that element of pressure on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when do you consider yourself financially successful?
Financial success for me means I have a passive income of at least $15,000 to $20,000 coming in every single month. Passive income. That is after I have my house.
Okay.
I have a really good house in the US, which is really expensive, by the way, in New York especially. Have a house in New York, get a house for my parents, retire them, have them travel, whatever they're doing, make sure that they have enough money that they are traveling and I can financially support them. And then make sure that my 3 siblings that are behind me are on the right path also. Make sure that they are also happy, because for me, something I mentioned earlier was that I lived in the same room with them. So I have a really tight connection with them. Although I hated them like before, now I've grown really close with my siblings and I want to make sure that they are happy. So in order for me to be financially successful, I need to make sure that my people around me are financially successful first. And then in terms of myself, I have a nice house, a nice family. I can afford to travel wherever I want at any time I want. Like that should be my thing. So like if I'm like, oh, I'm feeling down, I want to just go to Peru tomorrow and lie on the beach. Can I do that? Am I financially stable enough? So, and I have other business plans. Like I want to do real estate in the future, do real estate investing, not really like realtor, but like other things that I want to do that will give me passive income so I can be really financially free. So even when I'm a teacher, I won't be a teacher for the money, because that's something that I think I can come and do as a passion, where even if I'm not paid, like I can have that passive income to fill my financial ego, or like that little thing that I had, like of always needing that finances. So I can just focus and do what I love and kind of be satisfied once and for all. But my financial success just would be everyone around me is financially successful. I have a house, I have a passive income, and I can afford to eat where I want, travel where I want, and I don't have to like look at the bill like when I'm getting something, or live paycheck to paycheck, because this is something I do right now. Like for example, with my parents, my parents live paycheck to paycheck. Like every single next paycheck, they're like, oh, is the rent price fixed? Are the car prices fixed? Do we have enough money for insurance? Do we have enough money for this? This is something I never ever want to deal with in my life, because I see that with my parents right now. They are really tight. Sometimes family problems come up. They fight over $20, for example. It's not a lot of money, of course, but they do fight over a little money, which growing up, me seeing my mom and dad fighting about $20 to $30 at sometimes, it gives you like saying like, I never want to have this in my future. I never want those financial problems. So I'll do everything I can to make sure that I don't see this in my own future. But yeah.
That's like that with most parents, actually, because simply our parents grew up in more thrifty era. Like they grew up in an era there was a lot of scarcity of food, of everything.
Yeah.
Those were tough times for
of course.
everyone.
Yeah.
But for young people, for people in our generation, though, it's so trivial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Arguing over $20. All right. Now, we did a lot of talking about your upbringing, your background, and your financial goals. Now, what do you say we shift gears and talk a little about your IELTS prep? Because a lot of our subscribers here tune in wanting to get some tips. They want to step up their language learning experience. So how did you go about your IELTS prep? Right. So some tips, some do's and don'ts about reading, listening, writing, speaking would be awesome.
Just something to put out there. I didn't have the same timeline as a lot of people in Uzbekistan do in terms of learning language. I think if you want like that, because I did grow up in the US, if you want that, I think tomorrow's episode of Sukhra will give you a lot of that. But for me, how did I come into IELTS? I'll tell you a little story about like how I first met Sukhra, because that's how I came into IELTS. I came back from the US to Uzbekistan 2021. I was 11th grade and I just finished 11th grade. I'm here for the summer and I had to take the SAT exam. And I'm looking into College Board, looking at all the testing sites. And Innovative Center, the center that I studied and I worked at, is one of them. And I give them a call. I see the phone number. It said no seats available, but it's a registered exam, like center. I called him and I say, hey, do you guys have any available seats? And then my mentor, he lures me in. He doesn't say yes, he doesn't say no. He said, oh, maybe you'd like to come in and we can talk about it. Because I told him I'm from the US. And he said, maybe you'd like to come in and you'd like to talk about it. And I was like, okay, fine. I go there. And the day I go in there, it was Sukhrab's birthday. It was May 20th. I go in there. Like as soon as I meet them, they're like, "Oh, we're celebrating one of our like favorite students' birthday. You want to come?" And I actually meet him on his birthday. I don't know him, and they made me do a birthday wish. I don't know why. Like I don't know the guy. I was just like, yeah, happy birthday. I wish you the best. Like I didn't really know what to say. But after that, he said, "Hey, we don't have SAT here, but we have Sukhrab who's studying for the SAT. Maybe you guys can be study buddies and study." And then he said, well, there's an exam, IELTS. Would you like to give it a try? And at that time, I had heard so much about IELTS because my cousins were preparing, other people were preparing. I had even given a mock exam at some point just to go and see what this exam was about. Never did the testing system. And I said, sure, but I'm leaving into the United States in 10 days because I was living in 10 days. And then he says, I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But he says, well, we have an exam coming up in about a week. Would you like to give it a try? And I was like, why not? And then he sets a date, and then I tell myself, again, I'm really arrogant, and I tell myself, it's a language proficiency exam. I live in the US. I'll get a 9 on this thing first try. Expectations are really high. I don't prepare at all, not for writing, not for reading, nothing, literally. I just go into the exam without learning the testing materials. I just knew the exam format, and that's it. I go in, I sit the exam, and I start losing concentration during listening. No concentration. And I keep on missing things. And I'm like, whoa, I just missed one. Now, what is my grade? I didn't even memorize how many you need to get correct for what. So I was panicking reading. And I mean, during listening. And then reading comes. I treat it like it's SAT. And again, it was a disaster. I didn't finish it on time. And then I go to writing. Writing task 2 was a normal American essay that you would write 5 paragraphs. There was no pressure. I look at task 1 and I'm like, what the hell is this? I've never described a graph. Like, I don't know what this is. I take that. And the next day was my speaking. I go into speaking. I crush it. I have a blast with the examiner. We're having a cool conversation. He talks to me about space, about this, that. And then I didn't know what to expect from the exam. I kept on calculating it like a lot of people do. 8 plus 8 plus this. What does it give you? 8.5. Like where am I? And then at last, I got 7.5 on my first try. Overall, 7.5. And then the score breakdown is even more thing. It was 7 reading, 7 listening, 6.5 writing, and 8.5 speaking. That was my first exam. When the certificate came, I was already in the US. I was like, I don't need the certificate. You guys can keep it. I don't want anything to do with IELTS because that broke my ego. I thought I would do really good. I did really bad. And then I was in the US for 2 years until 2023. And before I came back last year, my mentor said, hey, like, well, you're coming back. Would you like to try IELTS this summer? Actually, I got into IELTS way before. I got a job offer in the winter, and it was around February, I think. And I started getting into IELTS. I found your channel. I found Begzod Marahmedov. I found all these IELTS people in Uzbekistan. And then I saw how close you guys were to 9. And I told myself, I will beat these people to 9. No, I know.
There was a hidden competition and we had no idea.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
I didn't even know you guys. I just know you guys were so close to 9. I was like, okay, they're not going to get it until I'm in Uzbekistan. And I just need to go there and get it first. And then once March 3rd comes, I still remember that day. I think I wake up and then I see IELTS 9 in Uzbekistan, IELTS 9, 2 9s in the same day. And I was like, okay. I was like, they're still the youngest 9er spot. I was like, I'll settle for that. And then I come to Uzbekistan, again, same arrogant mindset that I was like, I'm going to go into the exam. I've been studying at the most prestigious universities in the world, one of them. I'll get a 9 on this exam. I don't need preparation. I go and I get an 8 overall. Still a step up from last time, but now it was 9 listening, 7 reading, 7 writing, 8.5 speaking. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong? Like, I cannot get an 8.5 on this exam. I take 3 more exams back to back, no preparation, just because I'm thinking maybe the testing system is messed up. Maybe they just cannot record, I was preparing, of course, by myself, trying to look through some practices. But when my mentor said, come to my IELTS class, let me teach you some techniques, I said, I'm not going to an IELTS class. I was too arrogant to be in a class with other students. I felt like I was too good to be in the class. It goes on 5 exams in a row. I get 7 in reading. 7 reading, 7 reading, 7 reading. Writing goes from 6.5, 7, 7.5, 6.5, 7, 7.5. I don't even get an 8. And speaking, never a 9, just 8.5, 8.5, 8.5. And listening, it's always 9 or 8.5 again. And I'm like, what is wrong? There are these people getting 9 in reading, and me with 780 on the English section of the SAT, I can't get 9 in reading in IELTS to prove my English proficiency. And I had to let the ego go because I was getting embarrassed at that point, because people were like, you can't even get an 8.5 and you've been living in the US for 9 years now. People were kind of mocking me. So I had to let that ego go. I went to my mentor. I said, Muhammad Aka, here, I'll go ahead and I'll be in your class. Just teach me. I need this. On my 6th exam, I prepare for 2 weeks straight. I go to all of his classes. He gives me individual lessons, tells me this is how you do writing, this is how you do listening, this is how you do reading. I take those classes, and finally, I go into my exam. I get 8.5, 8.5, 8, 9. So I came so close to 9. And that was after practicing. So I realized how important learning the actual testing system was, because there is no IELTS teachers, in my opinion. There's only IELTS instructors. IELTS teachers do not teach you language, in my opinion. Once you start IELTS as somebody who's learning general English, your language growth kind of stops, or it doesn't really grow as much as it used to when you're doing general English. And IELTS instructors are just supposed to give you the testing techniques, nothing else. So when I did get those testing techniques, my grade went up from 8 to 7.58 to a stable 8.5. I was just getting 8.5 back to back at that point, being short 1.5, sometime from writing, sometime from speaking. But overall, that whole summer, I took a total of 15 exams in one summer. And it was crazy. I was taking exams back to back 3 days. I was trying some in-person speaking, some online speaking. I was trying so many different variations. I was taking it in Tashkent. But a fun fact, it was all with British Council. No IDP. So I took 17 exams.
So you got a beef with IDP or what?
I don't have a beef with IDP. I think that in terms of the testing, they're both the same thing. At the end of the day, you get your material from the same place. I just think IDP's goals and the way it functions doesn't align with my morals and my ethics. I think they're more business oriented than British Council.
I think that both are. Like we're partners with both IDP and British Council, right? And they both do lots of promo. They both trying to get more students. They both, offers us something in return for helping them get, students.
Yeah, and I will say it because I was recently offered being an ambassador for British Council. So I do have some this is after my exam. So even when I say something like this now, it doesn't matter. Like I really don't care. I can break the contract right now. But just me personally, I felt like for me, like when I was taking these exams, when I felt like IDP would just have a very, very strong advertisement, very strong and very direct. British Council is still about business. I'm not saying they're not about business. They are, but they're more subtle about it. They don't show it that they're all about money. And they're like they make it feel like they are like kind of like a charity organization. They're not that direct. Like they don't flex how many students they had in one session. One time I saw IDP saying like, "Oh, we had the most amount of students in one session on this." Like what were they trying to do with that?
I mean, okay, I'd attribute that to the fact that British Council is mostly staffed by old people. No offense. A lot of them are oldies, right? But with IDP, they have young people like you. They're hunters. They're hunting out there. They have that arrogance and that level of competition. That's what they have. And I wouldn't hate on IDP, okay? So it's like you hating on yourself.
No, of course. But no, overall, like at that time, I did my research about both IDP. Like people would say like, oh, all of our Niners are coming from IDP, not from British Council. IDP is easier. British Council is harder. I didn't believe that. So my reason for choosing British Council was not that British Council was easier or harder. That wasn't a factor at all.
I guess I already shattered all that myth once I got my 9 with British Council. A month after I got my 9.
I think you did, because once you did that, it kind of like set like, hey, they're both possible, like with both British Council and IDP. But still the number of IDP 9s are like far more than the British Council. Which is still, people still believe it. Because I used to tell my students about my opinion, and they used to come to me and they're like, I registered with IDP. Are you mad at me? And I'm like, no, go register with whoever the hell you. This is what I told students. If you really believe IDP is easier, psychologically, you think that you can get a better score doing that, do it. I said, because like you're training your mind to think that, then go with it. I'm not gonna change your mind, because like I'm not gonna say anything, because I took it all with British Council, and I've never took with IDP, so I can say how they are in terms of the testing itself, the grading, anything else. I can't, because I never took it with them.
But I tell our students something else, something different, right? When they come asking me like whether they should sit the test with IDP or British Council, I tell them that you're not ready. Because if you were ready, you wouldn't ask me that question in the first place, right? You're ready when you say, send me the location. Send me the location.
Exactly. I think that is also true. That's true. Like with British Council, IDP, they're just both two organizations. At the end of the day, they have their own goals, own profit, own other stuff. But to us, the people who are taking the exam, for us, they're like, oh, which one do we go to? This one has this one has this one. At the end of the day, like you said, are you ready to take the exam? If you are, why do you care? Even like me, like I don't like, I shouldn't even care about their morals or anything else, because why do I care about that? I'm taking the exam for myself at the end of the day. And it's just feeding my own ego. It's feeding my own purposes, and I have my own purpose for the 9 that I want to get. So I don't care if it's IDP or British Council. But for me, it was another big factor about British Council. The reason I took it is because it is held at the center I was studying at. So the atmosphere was like, it was there. I studied there. If I did practice there, I would do it there. So it felt like home. Like I used to take mocks there, even like mock exams. So the environment was just like so familiar. Like I didn't have that like different. I didn't have to really go anywhere else. It would be my same routine. Coming to the center, like every day I would, taking the exam or not, I would be in that center all day. So that familiarity is what like,
it is important. And here's fun fact. I got my first 9 with IDP, and I only did that because they were the first organization to organize computer IELTS in Bukhara. And then the second 9 I got with British Council, I also did it on their first computer session in Bukhara.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I would have got my first 9 with British Council if they were the first organization to organize CD IELTS here in Bukhara. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
if
interesting. But the battle between IGP
The
versus
British
British
Council.
Council, yeah.
I feel like we're doing them way too much promo talking about them here.
Yeah. No more talking about them. We're gonna go back to IELTS.
Which is yes, circle back to IELTS.
Yeah, we should just circle back to IELTS. But with my just road to 9, I left that summer unsatisfied. And I told everybody I would return with a 9. I did take IELTS again twice in the US.
Yeah.
Between when I came back. And I didn't get a 9 on those also. I had really bad experiences taking the exam there. But overall, like going to the 9, I think that Sukhrab getting the 9 was my push. If I didn't have that, I don't think I would have gotten the 9. Like after that, I just like substantially increased it.
That was like the final nail in the coffin.
It was the final one. Like if that didn't happen, I would not have gotten the 9 because I studied and I was like, I had a purpose. I was like, my writing will be 9. Like I went into that exam. Before that exam, I studied all of your writings, every single writing any IELTS instructor there can offer. I took it all down and I made a formula for myself. I said, okay, he's a guy who's getting 8 in writing. He's a guy who's getting 8 in writing. Okay, I gathered all the writings and I made a formula for myself. Okay, what are they doing that is working? Because I hate, like I learned by like just analyzing how others are writing their essays. And I just realized like, hey, instead of giving so many ideas, give one idea, develop it. Like there were some things that I kind of learned from you or others that really, really helped with my preparation. But once I did, I was like, okay, finally, like I got that 9. I was like, I'm never looking back into this exam ever again. I'm never going to take it again. And I think that you are really, really brave for taking the exam over and over and over again. Because if I were to take the exam again right now and I scored 8.5 or 8 or even 7.5, if I did, I think I wouldn't stop again until I get another 9. Like I think it will be a same ripple for me.
Right.
But in terms of like advice just that I have for a lot of IELTS candidates that are taking the exam, something I struggled with personally, I want to start with the reading section.
Now, before we do that, can I drop something here real quick? You gave me some credit for being bold and brave for taking the test over and over again after I got my 9s.
After, yes.
Yeah. You have to be able to set aside your ego. And that's something I realized. I talked to a few 9ers on the podcast on previous episodes. And I asked them if they would sit the test again. And guess what they said? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably. And I asked them why. And they said like, okay, I don't want to lose that leverage. I don't want to lose that reputation. Right? There is a lot at stake for them.
Yeah.
But you see, at this point, no one cares about 9. No one does.
Yeah.
No one does. They expect you to have perfect English. They expect you to be a competent teacher.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a marketing. It's not a selling point anymore as a school or as a teacher.
Yeah.
Right?
I think you got your, it was June when you got your third score after your double 9. You scored 2 9s and it was June 10th or 11th. Your score came out. I remember perfectly. I think it was either June 10th or 11th. You guys can
this
go
guy
back.
is a hardcore
You guys can
fan.
go back to his channel. It was June 10th or 11th. You got you scored. You did it for the third time and you didn't get a 9. And it was an 8.5, and you put your reflection about your score and how it went. Like it didn't.
Oh my God! This guy is a die-hard fan. This guy reads every single.
Yeah,
post.
I do. I read all of the posts, all of the essays, everything. And every time when you say cooking time, I make sure I go in and I see, whoa, like this student really like. I've subscribed for a long time, so. But like every single time, like when I saw that and when I saw like your honest thing, like. I was just like, okay, so achieving the 9 is a 1-time or a 2-time thing, and you'll always fall back. Like it's not constant. You can never get onto that constant 9 level. So that kind of calmed me down because at that point I had a like 8.5 reading, 8.5 listening, 8 writing, 9 in one exam, but I had like a super score 9 already. So I was like, okay, like I'm like more I'm more calm thinking that it is not attainable and like you cannot keep it always. So that did give me some like, okay, like calm down type of like, okay, look, he scored 2 9s and right now he didn't score, but he's still sharing it. And I thought like, when I saw that, I was like, I would never do this. When I saw that, I was like, I would never do that if I were.
Was it a suicide? That was a suicide.
I was like, what? Like first when I saw it, I didn't think it was yours. I thought it was Alisher's. Because like he used to share his score and you used to share your score. But when I saw it, like I zoomed into the name and I'm like, it's your name. I'm like, whoa, okay. And I read the whole reflection, and I thought that was just really, really, really
You know
great.
what's funny? The following day, I was given a presidential medal for getting the first 9. That's the irony. The following day, I get, after I put out that post,
Yeah.
I'm called, the moment I make that post, I get a visit by my dad, and he says, urgently, you're going to shave your beard. You're going to get a nice suit. You're going to Tashkent tomorrow. They're giving you a medal. And I'm like, what for? Because you got the first 9. Front door. No way. I'm not a Niner anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of felt weird, okay, being there, getting that medal.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been meaning to ask you one thing that I think I would do if I were in your shoes, but you didn't. And I was talking to them about it before you came in here. Why didn't you fight to say that I was the first and it's my title and it's not a 2-person title? Because the reason I'm saying this is because I know you EOR'd it and you had the exam first. So I guess this is like the exclusive one where you tell us why you didn't fight for it. Because if it was me, I would fight for it. I said, like, I would say, hey, I took the exam first. EOR means they remarked it and they were wrong about my first score. And they gave me the correct score I deserved. So you took the exam first. Your score and you should be officially the first 9. So why not fight for that title? Because you were on the podcast. I watched the whole podcast, the first podcast you guys did, an Edu Actions podcast. And I was like, why isn't he like fighting for it? Like, so can you give a little bit on that?
Okay. Like you said, it's going to be exclusive because I've never talked about this publicly.
Yeah.
But I think it's about time I put it on record, so I'd never get asked this question again. So, for one, I don't believe in any of these titles. First band 9 or second band 9 or third band 9 or first perfect band 9 or first band 9 writing. Because I genuinely believe it doesn't matter what band score you have if you're a trash, shitty teacher. Band 9 is not what qualifies you for teaching, right? Yes, it is a massive financial leverage. It's a massive leverage. Yes, you can make a ton of money, right? And use that as leverage on social media, sell your online courses or whatnot. But that's not me. That's against my values. This is the first reason. And the second reason is the other guy, the Mr. Begzot, he deserves it probably more because he spent a better part of his career life doing this. He probably contributed more to the IELTS community than I'll ever be able to do. So that's my reasoning for that, right? It's kind of this, you know, I might sound old-fashioned for saying that, but I respect the guy. I respect the guy because it's hard. It's hard to imagine, you know, what this guy has been through all these years being in Tashkent, because it's really competitive there. It's fierce, to say the least. I'm saying that because I had Mr. Khurshid, the founder of Everest, on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he was telling me how naive I am, and because I kind of think I am. I think this world is a fairyland where everyone is happy and there's no competition, but he's telling me I have no idea. In Tashkent, competition is crazy, right? And he's been in this business for this long and is still, you know, he's got a bunch of schools, and I don't think he's doing it for money. Even if he's doing it for money, I think he's helping a lot of people, and I really admire the work he's doing. So to me, it doesn't really mean much. Do you know why it doesn't mean much to me? Because I knew at that point I could do that again. I can do it on a casual Sunday. I can do it pretty much every day, right? Right. I'd only get angry if I was too scared to lose it, right? You see what I'm saying? I was too scared to lose it. I'd only get angry if it's something that was hard to come by, elusive. That's the word they used for it. But to me, it was within reach at any moment, within my reach. I could just show up to the test venue and get a banana as long as I'm in the right headspace. And I was that convinced. And there was no point really arguing because I didn't really have the energy to do that. I do have the energy, but What's the point? At the end of the day, what really matters to me is peace. I really want to be able to put my mind at ease, because that's only when I can make quality decisions, and that's everything to me. And I don't care about all the fame and the money and, I'm not that competitive, I guess. I'm not that as competitive as you are. Yeah. But if there was anything I would take away from this podcast, is to be a little more competitive. And that's what you're teaching me right now here. Yeah.
I think I noticed that quality in you on the video that you got a 9 in when you went to the IDP office, and you told them like, hey guys, like put away the cameras, like keep it cool, like is this some type of like a prank or something? Like when you were saying that, and like even after getting it, your facial expression wasn't like whoa, like I was going like I was screaming when I got 8.5. Like I was like, even when I got my 9, I was on a bus, and everybody in the bus knew I got a 9 in IELTS. Like I was in the US. Nobody knew what IELTS even was. Nobody cared what IELTS was. But I made sure, like, so like in that sense, like I was like, I always saw you and I'd be like, why doesn't this guy like just I don't know. I'd be like he's just so opposite of who I am. Like I saw you as like more humble.
No, I wouldn't describe it to being modest. I don't consider myself that modest, right? I do have ego. I do have a lot of ambitions, and I do like celebrating things. But you don't really get excited about your achievement if you're confident you can do that. Like if you're confident you can do that, you don't feel like it's a big achievement. Let me give you this example. You watched the fight between Joshua and Ngannou.
Yes,
Did you watch that fight? I want to go and watch what happened the moment after Joshua knocked out Ngannou. He did not celebrate. He just kept his cool. He just walked around. You know why? Because he knew he could do that. You see? So with me, it always felt that way. I always felt that I already had 9. I didn't actually need 9 to prove it. I literally said that to my friends a few times. I got half a point short of 9. It would come up to me and say, "Hey, buddy, don't worry, you'll get it in your next attempt." And I'm like, I'm not worried at all. I'm not, because I already have 9. I don't need that piece of paper to validate that. I don't need other people's validation for that. You understand? So, and having that, I think, mindset is what helped me get the first, not the first, but one of the first 9ers, become one of the first 9ers.
Yeah. Just a question. If you didn't do it for the 9, why take it so often until you get the 9 and don't take it often after you did achieve the 9? Because the frequency of how many times you took the exam was a lot until you got your 9. After, it just decreased.
No, you'd be surprised to know I said the test a lot more often after I got my second 9 than I did before I got my first 9. And here's why. So until I got 9, I had this habit of sitting tests once every 2 months. Yeah, oh, wow. I'd give myself this much space because I'd want to reflect. And I'd also want to, trying to sort of send myself the message, trying to tell myself that I don't care about IELTS. I'm not interested in IELTS because I don't want IELTS to define me. Like, in fact, a few weeks ago when Alicia got 9, he put band 9 next to our name on the channel. I told him instantly, take it down. I don't want that. And he's like, what? Because we are more than band 9 IELTS. Are you seriously letting that one number define you, who you are? And I think it's so absurd and miserable seeing all those people put band 9 next to their name. No offense to those people. I just think it's so childish, right? There's like a competition. Everyone is trying to fight for that title. Outside the IELTS world, like he said, people have no idea what band 9 is. Right? It's time for people to get over it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, and there are so many other ways you can you compete. You can show your excellence. You can show that you're better than other people, right? If that's what you're trying to do. Now, and back to what I was saying. So yeah, I said the test every 2 months until I got my first 9. After I got my second 9, I got greedy. Guess what happened? I started sitting the test every month. I changed my habits. And I felt miserably. All those attempts, I got 8.5, 8.5, 8.5. And at some point, I was sitting a test 2-3 times a month, which was against me. I was not me anymore. See,
And you weren't making them public.
yeah, I made 3 of my scores public, 3 of the 8.5s, I guess. And after that, I figured there was no point.
Yeah.
People weren't interested anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. So I stopped posting my results. And even one time I got invited to IDP podcast, the 3rd one, but it's in the Niners Club.
Yeah.
The Niners Club podcast. I guess that's the title there. So a few days before that podcast, I reset the test because I wanted to go there with 3 9s. That was my intention, right? And again, I was doing it because I was trying to prove them I was the better one. I was the smarter one, right? I did not have the right intentions. Guess what happened? I barely got an 8.5.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then that moment made me reflect. I took a step back before I shoot my shot again. What did I do? I set this test, tried being more mindful. I came close to getting 9 again in November. I got half a point short of 9. And then again in December, half a point short of 9. At that point, I had to pause. I had to stop and introspect, reflect for real. I said, I guess the universe is trying to tell me something. Yeah. At that moment, I said to myself, I'm not setting the test for at least another 2 months. I missed the old me. And I did that. And guess what happened? Back in April, I got my 3rd 9 after that long break.
I saw that. Yeah.
To me, it's not really about getting that. Because like I said, I can do it on a casual Sunday.
Yeah.
I just show up, I say, show me the venue. I just go on, answer all the questions. Go and sit my interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. And bring home that trophy. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as I have the right energy and I'm in the right headspace. And for that, I need that long break. I have to pause for 2-3 months. It's a way of telling myself, I could not care less if I have 3 9s or 4 9s or 5 9s or 10 9s. So that's a way I sort of keep myself grounded and not get ahead of myself. See what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and that.
So,
in that respect,
because every time I try being competitive, it backfires. I am competitive with only one guy, and that's the guy I see in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. That is like always being the best version of yourself. Like that is. Yeah, I see what you mean now. Like because for me, like after I saw that, I was just like, whoa, like after you did make those public, and I was like, whoa, this guy's brave. And then I saw the 3rd one, and I'm like, okay, like 3rd, and then like hopefully there'll be 4th, 5th. And yeah, I think 9 has lost its value back. Like when there was a race, I think there was a race for 9.
I wasn't racing though.
Yeah, you weren't racing, but there was a race.
Yeah,
like
probably in
were,
Tashkent.
Yeah, Tashkent. Like people were trying to get 9. Like there was a big race for 9. And me, somebody who wasn't even in Uzbekistan, like I was in the US studying there, and I got caught up into the race because my mentor was like, "Why not get 9?"
Yeah.
Like. I was just like, I can't get 9. Like, it seems impossible. Look at these people. Like, I was like, Begzor Mohammed, they've got 14 8.5s in a row. Like, I was like, that's a lot of 8.5s in a row, and he can't get it. Like, that means like I'm just a student. Like, when I was getting the exam, this is how I saw it. After I failed, I told myself, I'm not an IELTS instructor. I'm not a teacher. If I was an IELTS instructor, if I was a teacher, I would have gotten it. Because I did teach for 3 months, but it was just like, I was the main purpose of me teaching was so I can get better myself and then go in and take the exam. But once it kept on failing, I told myself, hey, the only people who can get this 9 are the teachers, are the IELTS instructors, people who are spending their days, their lives on this exam. For them, they're going to get it. But I'm just a student. I can't get it. It's impossible. And once I saw Sukhrab doing it, and I'm like, okay, he's a student. He did it. Okay, we're in the same boat with him. I can do it as well. So that prompted me to go ahead and achieve that 9. But I see it. I think like, I would say we are a bit less mature because you guys are like older and like you are more mature in terms of age and you think more and you know, but like you said, I'm like young, ambitious, and really arrogant. So from that perspective, when you tell me like, oh, like I said every 2 months, like, oh, like for me, I'm like, no, like why don't you just take it? Like, why don't you just like 10 9s? Like, why don't you do this? Like for me, I'm always like, I need to keep doing it. Like, go ahead. Like, for example, the SAT exam. On the last one, when I was going in. I had already planned that I was going to take 3-4 more times. I was prepared. I was like, I know I can get a really good score, but I was like, I'm prepared to now take it every month until I achieve a perfect score. That became my goal, but I studied really, really hard that I didn't need to do that anymore. But like, I told myself, like, I'll do it every month if it needs to. As many times as I get the chance to, I will keep on retaking the exam. So for me, like, for you, you have a purpose of getting the 9, right?
At this point, I actually feel ashamed to do the test because it's so below my pay grade. It's so below my pay grade, if you know what I mean, right?
So like,
because I honestly hate the idea of people associating me with this standardized test because I fundamentally hate the idea of standardization, even though it's good for business, because it limits you in so many ways. So your ability to express yourself in much more nuanced ways. So I kind of see it as an insult to my identity, right? So I only sit the test. The sole reason I have for sitting the test every now and then is for marketing purposes. And I said it publicly on my previous podcasts. So by the time this one comes up.
But like that 9 for me was adding that next to my name. I come to Uzbekistan. I chase fame. I chase being known. I chase the views. Like I said, like I have an ego, and that feeds my ego.
But you
that
see,
was mine.
this competition you got dragged into, it's kids competition. It's a bunch of kids in the playground fighting over nothing. While when in fact the real competition is out there, big tech companies.
That is exactly the thing that I needed to pick my head out of, because this is what happened. Last year I come here, I'm taking the exam over again. I become super good. I start getting a lot of students because I had the highest IELTS score in Samarkand. I had the highest SAT in Uzbekistan at that time. I'm getting so many students. In a matter of a month, I had over 100 students. Like it was crazy. Like I was gaining popularity like crazy, to the point where I was getting this money and I was like, whoa, this is my place. And then my dad just picked my head right out, and he's like, no. He's like, you are now playing in like the kiddie pool. Like what are you doing? Like,
exactly.
You are there. Like he's like, you gotta come here and conquer New York City. Like, you want to be a teacher? You want to do that? Come and do it here. He's like, you've lived in the U.S. for 10 years. Now you're going and flexing your English skills to them. He's like, come back here to the people you grew up with here, to the people you learn English with here. And why don't you flex on them? Why don't you compete with them here? So he said, like you gotta always go into the next like that competition, like that thing it was just for me to like feed my own ego, because I was like, once I set my mind, I was like, I'm gonna get that now. Like it's gonna be next to my name. So like, for example, right now I'm going to different presidential schools and doing presentations about admissions to top universities. And in order to sell myself, like to tell those schools, when the schools have me, to the introduction, the youngest Niner in Uzbekistan and the only person to have both perfect SAT and perfect IELTS, like those things are just like little titles. They don't define who I am as a person, of course, they don't, but they do add, like it's a great marketing strategy.
It is.
And that was my purpose altogether. My purpose for 9 wasn't so I can become a better teacher, because I'm not gonna be an IELTS teacher. I just did it. But I think one thing that I don't have common in other Niners except for Sohrab is I didn't do it for teaching purposes. I just did it because I was like, I'm gonna be the youngest. People will know me, and like it comes with its own a bit of respect, because whether you like it or not, whether you see it or not, students do, young people do. The young generation, they care about the 9. Young generation will define you as a Niner, like whether you like this or not. Like this is the thing. Like you can like it or not. You can say, well, like I don't define myself. I take it as an insult. But to somebody from Samarkand, Tashkent, who follows you, like who are you to them? You're a Niner. That's who you get defined as.
I'll tell you. I'll let you on a little secret. I get a lot of messages from people, right, thanking me for all the things I'm doing. They actually stopped calling me a Niner, and I cannot be happier. They're all sending me all admiration messages, telling me how much of a difference I made in their lives. And in none of those messages I received, they used the word niner. And that is a dream come true for me, because I don't want to make a difference in their lives as a niner, because this is something so many other people can be doing. What I think young people really need is they need focus, they need clear vision, they need discipline, and they need consistency. And I want to send this message through these podcasts we're having, by having them on a consistent basis and having great individuals like you come on the podcast and share their message and stories with people out there.
But the thing is, they wouldn't listen if you didn't have the 9. That's the thing. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Sure, you got rid of it. People are still thinking, but in order to get that audience, in order to have anybody listen, you need to put up those stats.
Yes.
Like this is something that is like college application related, but like that same thing with them, but here also. Like for example, let's say I had IELTS 7 and I say something like, I wouldn't be on a podcast. The thing is, you need the 9 for people to listen to you, whether you like it or not. Like at the end of the sure, like with time, they're going to stop defining you as a 9. But the reason they listen to you, the reason they take your advice, the reason like that they even let, like for example, are thanking you is because they trust it, because you have the 9. Like it shouldn't give somebody authenticity. Having 9 should not give somebody authenticity, because 8.5 is just as good as 9, because like it doesn't, right? But people and young like children and like the new generation, we are all brainwashed into thinking that the 9 is authenticity. If you have a 9, you know what you're talking about.
Just as adults are brainwashed into thinking that just because someone has an expert title, they know everything, or they know what they're saying, not realizing not all experts are always right. Like it was the case with the COVID.
With the being right and thing. Well, that's one thing I realized last year when I was teaching. I'm so arrogant. I hate being told I'm wrong when I make a mistake or wrong. Like I used to be a student and I love pointing out my teacher's mistakes. When they used to put it on the board, I used to laugh and be like, haha, like you made a mistake. It should be this. I started making mistakes in my own class as a teacher. And I would make mistakes. Like I was teaching SAT math. I would make a mistake. And I would try to way to justify myself, saying, oh, I learned using a calculator. Oh, like you can use a calculator during the SAT. But then I realized like the more I make excuses, the students are there to learn from me. They're not there for me to just like BS them, like basically. So for that reason, I was just like, okay, now like I have to. So every single time now when I introduce students and if I'm teaching anything, I tell them, hey, I'm not an expert. I may know things, but I also like don't know everything. I cannot score 1600 SAT on demand. I cannot score 9 IELTS on demand. So I may make mistakes next to you. I'm not a perfect person. If I make a mistake, you point it out, but it's a good thing I make a mistake. Because if I am at the level I claim to be and I make a mistake and that question tricked me, that means that there's a reason and you should pay attention even more. It's a good thing that I make a mistake. So like I still make sure that I prove, like make myself look good in some way, because I still have this and I still have this battle inside of me. But like overall, like I do realize that making mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. It's just a life thing.
Yeah. It comes with maturity. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. We did a lot of talking about IELTS, the IELTS community, the IELTS universe. I used to call it world. Now it's the universe, because it keeps getting bigger. And I guess soon I'm going to start calling it the IELTS multiverse, because they're telling me we got fans as far away as the US. So now what do you say we end this chapter of the podcast and talk a little about SAT? So, right. I'm going to be getting a lot of tips from your friend on IELTS on the next podcast. But as someone who scored the perfect score in SAT, 1600, and are you the only guy who scored 1600 in this entire country?
Yes.
You are?
Yes, I am. There's somebody who scored 1600 SAT subject test, which is something completely different. He has some YouTube videos. But the thing I would like to talk about my IELTS, that a lot of people have it wrong. I have a 1600 super score. In SAT, it's allowed. In IELTS, it's not, but in SAT, it's allowed. Super score. Now, what does that mean? I got a 1580 first, a score with 800 math, 780 English. The one I took in March, it was 800 English, 780 math. So 1580, but my super score is 800, and it's a 1600. And I am the only person to have scored a perfect English score or a 1600 in this matter in Uzbekistan. The other highest one is super score was 1590, 790. I think Marifa Jamal. She's pretty famous for that, like for having a high SAT score. But yeah, I did beat her, and that was my target, was to beat her. Like I will say publicly,
Right.
like my goal of taking the SAT was to beat Marifa Jamal. Like
But I had to break it to you, but there's a guy who's younger than you and is coming for your title and is sitting literally behind you right now. Say hi, Mr. Muhammad Aziz.
oh, that's great. This is the
Yeah.
thing. I love it. I want my title to be broken. I want other people to come and just like take over that. But with the 1600 SAT, like that was my main goal because I was like, I need to prove, like, I was like, still, I'm chasing something. Like I'm chasing things. I don't know why I'm chasing sometimes, but I'm just chasing them. Like I like the thrill of the chase. And once I get it, because I talk big and I'm like, once I get it, I'm like, here, something to feed my ego.
Oh yeah. But you said this exact opposite on your bio. I'm gonna go and read your bio right now for people out there. Is it meant to be a joke or what? Give me a second. Let me find this. Okay, IELTS 9, SAT 1600, Johns Hopkins University, 26, I guess graduation year. Just a regular academic weapon who's totally not egotistical.
That was supposed to be a joke. That was like a little sarcasm. I was like, he's totally not, but it totally is. Like
Totally
I was
is.
like, I'm totally not.
Totally.
Like it was meant to be sarcastic a little bit, but I just put it like.
But you know what? At least you're honest about it, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
At least I kind of hate those people. Not hate. I don't have hate for anything. Hate does not exist in my vocabulary. I mean, just not okay with guys who are too arrogant and egotistical, but not with this guy because he's so honest about it. 'Cause to me, honesty is the best policy. As long as you're honest about it, I don't mind it if you commit crime, but please don't do anything way inappropriate. Okay.
Yeah, of course, of course,
Yeah.
of course.
All right. So, all kidding aside, would you like to share with our audience some pointers for SAT preparation?
Yes. First of all, about SAT, have a purpose. A lot of people are now studying for the SAT because it's a trend. People love following trends. IELTS was a trend. People who wanted 5.5 to get into Uzbek National University still got 7 just because to tell others, I have a 7. Same thing is happening with SAT. What is your goal of taking the SAT in the first place? Like, why are you taking the SAT? Is it to get into a top university? Is it to get a good scholarship? What is the purpose? If there is no purpose, there's no point, then no point. Like, don't do it. But have a purpose behind it, which will push you to get the score you want. I'll give you a little bit about how I got my IELTS, and then I'll give you some tips about how to make a commitment in IELTS. So first of all, I took my first IELTS back when I was 9th grade, freshman in high school. I come into high school, I know that there is a day that our juniors are taking the SAT exam. It's free for everybody in my school. I can take it. It's free. I can just take it if I want or not. And I asked them, like, what is it about? And they're like, oh, if you score really high, you can get into a good university. That's all I heard. And I'm like, whoa, I want a good university. Let me just go try what I can get. I got a 1240 on my first try. And I was like, okay. I was like, it's not bad. I'm just a freshman in high school. I have 2 more years. I can score really, really well. I'll be fine. And then after that, I kind of went on, studied for 2 years. Really, I was an academic weapon. Like I was really good academically, top of my class in a lot of things. I was ranked first until my senior year. Out of 1,100 students, I was almost a valedictorian. It was just one grade that messed me up. But other than that, I was really good. Going and take the exam my junior year with no preparation because I thought that like it would be easy and I didn't prepare. And I got a 1480. It was my junior year and then it was COVID. So getting the SAT was not easy. And all of the schools, top schools were going SAT optional. And now I was stuck with my 1480. Now I was like, okay, now I'm in COVID. My parents don't let me go outside. I cannot take the exam. I cannot submit this to the universities. So I went SAT optional and I got into like most of my top schools. However, I got waitlisted to a lot of them. Like UPenn is an Ivy League. I got waitlisted. And one thing about the waitlist is you have something called the letter of continue with interest. You tell the university you're still interested and give them the updates on what happened in your life. And SAT, I knew was one part of it. Once I knew I was getting waitlisted, I registered for the SAT. I studied 2 weeks with the mindset that I told all of these people I would get into Harvard. I was so cocky in my even high school. I would tell students like I got into Johns Hopkins University like early March before everybody else. That's the first result that comes out. And the girls in my class that didn't get in, I would tell them, hey, they were waitlisted. I would say, hey, don't worry. Once I reject Hopkins and get into Harvard, I'll let you have my spot at Hopkins. That's how toxic I was. I was that toxic. And that girl ended up getting into Harvard and I got rejected. So the universe had its own way of...
Yes, that's what you call karma.
And yeah, showing me my place. The universe had its own way of doing that. But all in all, I studied 2 weeks saying, hey, I talked big to all of these people. What if I don't get into any top schools? What if I get waitlisted for more? And I took the exam. I scored a 1580. I sent to my waitlist. I got into multiple waitlist spots. My U Chicago, UPenn, like a lot of top schools, like top 10s. I got into 7 top 10 schools at that time. And I was really, really happy. That was it for the SAT. Like that was my purpose and I got it. So first thing, have a purpose. Now I had a 2-week preparation for that time. But one thing that I tell students a lot is they say, how much preparation do you need for the SAT? How much preparation do you need for this? I don't think you should prepare like SAT 3 months. Improve your English first. Like your English in terms of like not like some people just take practice exam. No. Learn it first. Like me, for SAT math, I can get 800 on demand. I never studied SAT math. I just studied school math. With school math, I can get 800 on demand. Like a lot of times, I may do 1 or 2 slip-ups and I miscalculate something and I get like 20, 30 points off. But I can score good because I did well in school and math. Just improve your math overall. Don't focus too much on SAT math. If you do that, I think you can improve your math score. Because in Uzbekistan, math is significantly easier for students than English. Everybody, so many people have perfect math scores because everybody knows how to approach them, because the Uzbek education system in terms of math is much better than the US because we are taught to do everything by the calculator. Like for example, if I don't have a calculator, I don't think I can score 700 in math section. I'm taught to do a lot of the calculations on the calculator, so it's more efficient and time effective. I do that and I can get the score I want. With English though, it's really tricky. With the English section of the SAT, there's a reason a lot of the Uzbek just the Uzbek diaspora or just people, international students don't do well, who only study for SAT, because they study the question, they study the article, done. This is really bad. There's 2 parts of SAT English, the grammar section and then the reading section. In the grammar section, it's called the writing section. The grammar section, it's just like a math formula. Everybody gets maximum scores. But the reading section, everyone says, I have a hard time because they never studied science in English. SAT has a lot of scientific little paragraphs about cell regeneration, about molecular something, about chemistry, something. They never read that. So for them, it's hard to imagine what the hell they're talking about. That's why I told a lot of my students, take scientific magazines, scientific journals, scientific things. Start reading maybe genetic mutations in bears. I don't know. Go out and read a lot of scientific articles. Train yourself for the type of reading you will face, because all you're doing is analyzing, testing questions. When you come to SAT, to me, I cannot, teaching SAT format on how to approach questions is a 1-month course. If I want to make money, I will make it 3 months if I want to. But I cannot teach you beyond 1 month. The thing I could do for 2 months is get you prepared by giving you so much general knowledge on the SAT and increase it that way. So for students who the biggest problem right now with reading, I say take a step back from SAT, leave SAT for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Get yourself first familiar with the SAT type of readings. Number 1, they say take 2 texts and compare with one another. Give us a central idea. All these things are fundamental, just reading things you do in any book. Go read books, go read scientific articles, go do something else, and your SAT will improve in due time. It will. It really does help. Studying at Hopkins, I was just reading so much scientific stuff. I was taking science classes, astronomy classes, earth, so many classes, and those helped me imagine. When I was sitting in SAT and reading questions, I could understand everything clearly. Like, and I could imagine them in my head because I read science in English. This is why, like, when you're doing SAT, it's really important you're not only focusing on English, but other things also, like science and English. But yeah, that's pretty much some of my advice for SAT learners in English.
Well, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is. It is.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So I'm actually thinking about taking up SAT. Because like something like you said, it's a trend that's starting to catch on here in the city too. Yeah, I just want to see what my max would be like in SAT. So I'm sitting here taking all notes in my head right now. So improve your reading, technical reading, like read more technical stuff, science.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And
also here they have all text letters from presidents.
yeah.
Is it like the literature component?
Well, before it was like that. There used to be 5 texts, answers. Now it's just 1 paragraph, 1 question, 1 paragraph, 1 question. It's much easier than before. However, the texts are more dense and vocabulary dense, that students don't understand vocabulary or they don't understand what they are reading, because you need to get the central argument or the central idea of the text. The biggest difference, the reason I had a 780 in English of the SAT but couldn't score a 9 in reading and IELTS, the biggest difference, because as somebody who has high score in both, I can tell you the clear difference is, I think in SAT you need a lot of analytical skills. You need a lot of analytical skills. What does that mean? You need to understand everything you are reading. You need to be able to visualize everything you are reading. In IELTS, if you just know the format, like for example, true, false, not given, I go 1 question, 1 answer, 1 question, 1 answer, I can get the answer. But with the SAT, when you're reading, you must visualize everything in your head. I think about it, and then I go to the question. Like, it's 2 completely different tests with completely different things. I hate when people compare saying, oh, if you have 8 in IELTS, it's a comparison to a this in SAT. It's 100% false. 100%. When people do that, I get frustrated. I say there is no equivalency of IELTS to SAT. They are completely different exams. Do not compare them in any way. One has math, one doesn't. One has a whole English section with grammar, one doesn't. So there's no point of comparing them. But yeah, in terms of SAT, to score high on the English section, the biggest 3 tips would be, first of all, strengthen your vocabulary also, because strengthening vocabulary is really, really important. But once students go wrong, when I say strengthen vocabulary, this is what they do. They memorize a lot of vocabulary words. One thing I use was prefix and suffixes. You need to know some words have roots. Just learn the roots, meaning even if you don't know what the exact word means, try to guess what the word means by looking at its roots, looking at its prefix, what is it ending with, not like try to relate to another word or an antonym and make connections. That's what I usually do. Like, don't just memorize words just straight up from the dictionary and like, okay, it's gonna be on the SAT. No, like learn how to make something of a word you don't know what it means. Just kind of go back to the roots. That's one of the biggest things that I tell students in terms of vocabulary. In terms of grammar, it's all like just a math formula. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and you can just learn it. You can learn it from any book, like it's a formula. And then the third thing about the SAT is you cannot improve it in a month. It's not about the testing system. It's about language growth. So if you don't have the language, if you're not increasing your language proficiency, you cannot score high in SAT. You can know the SAT in and out, study the testing format on how to approach things, time management. But if you don't have the language, you can't. So focus on language proficiency also.
Okay, you're probably going to hate what I'm about to ask you next, but what do you think should be the IELTS baseline score for someone to take up SAT?
No, that's a fair question, because I still do use it. I just don't like equaling them to each other. But I think that you need at least a 6.5 to a 7 in IELTS. Why do I say this? For the math section, that's what you need. Because for the math section, in order to understand the word problems, in order to understand the questions itself, you need to have that level of understanding. Now, let me go to the English section. In order to be good at the English section and to start, you need to have 7.5, at least a 7. And your writing score must be at least 6.5. If you have a 5.5 writing, but you have a 7 overall, that doesn't work. I look at each subsections because why? What does writing tell me? It means you cannot produce a lot of language. it means although you understand, you have good reading, you have good listening skills, you cannot produce. In SAT, you need to be able to produce some language. Even if you don't write anything down, I think language production is really, really important. So I always tell students like, hey, like if you're studying IELTS, go study. It's okay, fine. Get 7.5 before you move on to SAT. Because, and some students do this, never recommend it. I regret it now because last year I let students do this. Never study for IELTS and SAT at the same time. Never. Like the only time you can do it is if you already have 7.5, 8 in IELTS and you just want that 8.5 and you're just doing it for just your own sake. Fine, go ahead, because it's not going to take up a lot of your time. But if you're so focused on IELTS and you want to add SAT into that routine, don't do it. Finish one, get the desired score you want in IELTS, and then go into the SAT. Another thing about people, they want a high score in IELTS that they sacrifice the time they need for the SAT. If your goal is to study abroad, let's say you want to go to Harvard. Harvard minimum IELTS requirement is a 7. You don't need a 9. You can get a 7, get a 1600 SAT. Spend that time you want on the IELTS, on the SAT, and that's a better score for you than if you were to get something else. So I always tell students like, get what you need and then move on. Don't spend extra time on it, because what is that 7.5 gonna do? Feed your ego? Like for me, like I'm like, oh yeah, it feeds my ego. But I'm like, for students, when I'm giving advice, this is what I say. And like there's a saying like, do what your teacher says, but don't do what your teacher does. Like
do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I tell students. Like I'm another person myself, but like this is my good advice for you.
I'm really glad you said that about students not having to sweat so much about IELTS if they want to go and study abroad, because I often get visits from students who tell me they want to study IELTS and then do SAT, and they already have IELTS, and I ask them what they need it for, and they say just because. It just beats me why they do that. So it's simply waste of their resources, their time, money, which can be better spent on getting the higher score on SAT, which would boost their
chances of
getting into university.
And a lot of students ask me, what IELTS do I need for top schools? I tell them 8. And there's a reason. Because there's like a IELTS requirement per university. So 8 is only Brown University and Princeton. 7.5 is Cornell, Columbia, NYU, Northwestern, and a few more. And then 7 is like Harvard, Stanford, they want 7. Like MIT, I think it's 7. So a lot of others want 7. But if your goal is not the top, 6.5 is even enough. Get your 6.5. What is your target? And go get some SAT score. Get 1400, 13. You know why? Because it gives you more merit scholarship later. Like IELTS doesn't give you merit scholarship, in my opinion. Because IELTS is just, what does IELTS tell me? It just tells me you're just like any American student. You can learn in an English environment. You speak our language. You can come here. You can listen to our professor. You can write and take notes. You can read if our professor assigns you something, and you can speak with us if you want. That's it. Getting an IELTS 9 doesn't make you smart. It just means, well, okay, you speak the language, but so does every single American. Like, that's it. Go and focus on other stuff. Like that IELTS, don't chase it. Like nobody knows IELTS in the US. When I got 9 in IELTS, I started posting videos on Instagram, and my friends would be like, well, congratulations on that thing you got. What is that thing you got? And I would spend good 2 minutes explaining to them what IELTS was. It got so annoying that it was actually like collaboration with British Council. I just removed myself from all of the videos. I had about 4 videos up on my account, all relating to IELTS, British Council, and other stuff. I have the post still, but I removed all videos because I kept on getting bothered by all of my course mates saying, what is that exam? And I would tell them, oh, it's a language proficiency exam. And they'll be like, first they'll give me a weird look like, why are you taking a language proficiency exam? And they'll be like, well, congratulations. And I'll be like, yeah, thank you. So that really got to me, and I deleted all of those videos I had up.
Right. Yeah. That lady you met in Samarkand, Savni, who was on the podcast. Yeah. She actually told me that she's also bothered when students ask her what her IELTS score is. And she said it on the podcast, like, I'm a native. Duh. Yeah. She literally made that point. Yeah. Why the F do I need IELTS, right? They get so bothered. They get so pissed. Yeah. So I get that. Yeah. All right. We did a lot of talking about SAT. We did a lot of talking about IELTS. Now let's talk about your personal pursuits. So what do you find yourself doing when you're not teaching, going to university? What kind of hobbies do you have?
Well, I work out. That's one thing I do. I think it's like my escape.
We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's my escape. Although I don't look too like, I don't look like too like fit. I still think I am better than I was yesterday. I think like me working out, like today, I had to go to the mall, go get some shorts and a shirt with like a tank top. And I told my friend, I'm like, yo, we're going to work out. And there was a gym, like Gymshark. I went there and I was like, I don't want to go in. And then I just came home, did push-ups and other stuff. And I was like, but that like, it became so much part of my routine now that if I don't work out, like 1 day, 2 days later, I feel like I got so much smaller. My muscles are not there anymore. I cannot do much. Like it's gonna be like another like first you do it to look a little better, be a little stronger. That's what you do it for the first time when you get in. But then you're into that ripple again of never being enough. You look in the mirror and once you have a pump, your muscles are bigger and you chase the pump.
Yeah.
And
I also developed this body dysmorphia.
Yeah, it develops a body dysmorphia. So no matter how good you think you look, like or others think you look, to yourself, you're like, no, I don't look as well. So one thing I do is definitely like.
So what's your fitness goal at the moment?
What's my what?
Fitness goal.
Fitness goal right now, it's to cut back into 75 kilograms. I am like, okay, about 2 months ago, I was at 97. Right now I'm at 85, so I cut down 12 kilograms. I need to cut down 10 more. So I'm gonna cut down, be really shredded, and then again bulk because I've been on a dirty bulk for way too long that I need to start cutting. But no, like my fitness goal is like to look as good as I can. So any clothes I wear, I want to look really, really good, like wherever I go, because growing up, like I said, I was really, really obese. So like I had that self-conscious, like when I used to sit like this to cover my stomach or make sure like is my belly sticking out or is this like this? So I always had that. So like, I'm thankful now that I don't have those thoughts anymore, but still like, I always say, okay, I cannot let myself gain too much weight. I need to always keep myself in check. So when I'm eating something, like, I'm like, okay, like, am I counting my calories? How many calories do I have? Am I still on a calorie like deficit or am I on a calorie surplus today? Should I go do cardio today? Because I hate cardio. But yeah, this is something.
So you said you recently ended your dirty bulking, right? How many calories were you having a day?
About 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day.
45,000. How do you manage to eat that much? Where do you put all that food? Where does all that food go?
The thing is, I can eat so much. I was joking with my friends today. The other day, I saw on Instagram, there's a place in Tashkent where there's a food competition. They said, eat 1 kilogram of steak in 5 minutes. I told them I'll go do that. Because with me, I don't know why. I work out so much. For the last 2 years, I've been working out. But I eat so much that it doesn't look like I'm working out. I'm really strong in that sense, but still, I eat so much that you can't tell that I work out. And then if I don't work out, then I get really out of shape really fast because of that food I have. So I during Ramadan, I think it was about 2 months ago when it started. When Ramadan started, that was the only time I started losing weight. And now I'm in that place where I know how much I need to eat and I'm down because I don't know, I can eat so much food, 2 minutes later I'll be hungry again. I'll be at the university, 3 a.m. I'll go grab 2 sandwiches from Subway and I'll just munch on them at 3 a.m. So it's crazy. I can eat so much.
Probably because you have high metabolism.
Yeah, definitely. I think I have a really high metabolism. If I was eating this 10 years from now, I don't know how big I would be because I eat 4 to 5 times a day. And even when I go to eat, I eat a lot. I don't just eat a little bit and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm satisfied. And that food is it's my biggest enemy. So now this is what I try to do. I eat as much as food as I want, but I don't eat any desserts, no candies, nothing like that. And I try not to eat any processed stuff, no soda, just water. But I can eat as much food as I want. And I try to tell myself I only eat functional things, like things I need to function, like food, like meat and other stuff. But I'm not gonna go too much onto that processed and garbage that has a lot of calories.
Right. And what's your ideal body type? Or what kind of body type would you like to have, say in 5-10 years from now?
I would say just I would just say like look good. That's my like idea. But I would say like make sure that I am fit, meaning like if I am wearing anything, like I don't look too fat, like too, because every single time somebody takes a picture of me, I say, do I look fat? What is this? Like, oh, do I need to like, I'm self-conscious. Like I like until about 2 years ago, I hated being on camera because it would reflect how like out of shape I am. And I hated that. When people used to take a picture of me or video of me, I say like, oh, don't. Like, we have a friend who was just with us, like, and sometimes like our friends joke about him like being fat. Like he say, oh, you eat like this, because they've never been fat. For me, somebody who has been, I say like, stop guys, like it hurts him. And I tell him and he's like, yeah, it does. And they're like, no, we were just joking around with him. And I tell him like, I know my friends used to joke around with me, but it hurts to somebody like when you tell them that. But sometimes they need to hear that. But it depends on the type of person it is. Like me hearing that kind of made me change and go into working out, because I knew that I cannot like keep on hiding from the cameras. I can't keep like letting people like get to me.
I see where you're coming from. I actually was there myself. I've been there. I mean, I've been in that spot. Not long ago, I used to weigh like 85 kilos, right? Now I'm down to 65. I lost 20 kilos.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And I remember when I was in university and I used to share a room with my friends in a dorm, and they used to always make fun of me because I had that belly that would stick out, right? And they would hide my food. They'd call me names. They'd call me fatty. Like, look, fatty just rolled in, and just every time I'd be eating something, they'd make fun of me. Don't eat too much. You're gonna put on too much extra weight. That kind of was my motivation to, get into work. But now my priorities have changed. I'm more into now longevity stuff. I want to work out because I simply want to live longer. Because I heard like 2 hours of investment at the gym is like buying 2 extra years. It might sound like an exaggeration, but I think exercise is really important for longevity.
Yeah.
So I'm doing mostly mobility exercise. Well, before I did mobility exercise, I used to do mostly, powerlifting and heavy weight lifting. But after my back injury, please watch your back. You have to watch your back.
I never do deadlifts for that.
Yeah.
I never do. I heard this when I started working out, that the risk to ratio is not worth it for deadlifts. So I do like bench press.
Yeah.
I do squats, everything, but I don't do deadlifts. When people ask me, what's your deadlift max?
Unless they pay you $1 million to do that, it's not worth it.
I do deadlifts, but I do it for like 20 reps with the most lightest thing I can take. Just to squeeze the back, just to get the contraction. And that's it. Just get the contraction, squeeze your back. Is your back being worked out? Yeah. Okay, done. You're good. I don't need to go. I hate one time like PRs. I like doing like if when people ask me what's your PR, I say I don't know. Like for example, right now I do 175 pounds for 10 reps. Like, so I don't know how much that is in kilograms.
At least you know how to control your ego at the gym.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, at the gym. Yeah, of course. Because I know that, because before I used to do that, and when you do that, like there was this one gym video, you've probably seen it. This guy doing an incline dumbbell press, and his his muscle tears.
Oh,
and it goes
that's
like,
nasty. Oh my God.
Yeah. After I saw that, I stopped doing one PR. I was like, it's not worth it. I was like, I want to go to the gym every day, work out, and go back and not have to worry about like something's gonna happen to me, my leg is gonna break, my hand, something's gonna happen. Even like I work with 5 pound, 10 pound dumbbells. Even now I'm big, but like in terms of like when I'm like working out, like I can lift like 10, 15 kilogram bicep curls. I don't do it. I do 5 kilograms. I just do really slowly, get the contraction, and I see it in the mirror, it's contracting. I'm done. Like at the gym, I don't because when I was a beginner, I used to be self-conscious saying, oh, I'm not carrying a lot of weights. Look at all these people. But then I realized like, it doesn't matter. Like when you go to the gym, nobody cares what you're doing. Everybody has some place to start, and everybody works out the way they do.
You ever wonder what your life would be like if you had this mentality at university?
I do. But no, like I think like in the university, like I don't think I could survive with that mindset. Like I don't think I would.
And probably the reason why you don't have that mindset at university or in life in general is because there's not much risk.
Yeah.
there's no physical risk. There's no immediate risk.
Yeah.
So you don't see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Okay. Do you like watching TV shows? And as someone who studies, political science, you said political science, right? You must know Suits.
Oh, it's literally, if I pull up my Netflix right now, I put it on repeat. I watch it from season 1 to season 8. Once I'm done, I rewatch it again, and again. I love it. I just love the show.
Who's your favorite character there?
It's Harvey Specter.
Okay. It's got to be him, right? The Batman. He calls himself the Batman.
Yeah, he's a Batman. I don't like the Robin. I don't like Mike Ross. But I like Harvey Specter, that egotistical, that I'm the best. Like, I don't have dreams. I have goals.
It's like everyone is here. I want up here.
Like life, everyone's here. I like this. Like, and then like that whole thing. And he's like, I want another me. Is like that character. Yeah. Every time I see it, I see myself of who I want to be when I'm a lawyer. Like all the other lawyers are afraid of going up against me. I'm the best. When people try to go up against me, they rather not. I have a perfect record. Like never lost on a court. Like. That is like my ideal type of like person. Like I know it's just a movie character, a show character, but still like when I see him, I'm like, this is me in the future.
And who's gonna be your loose lit?
Definitely not Safrov.
That guy behind the camera.
I don't know. I mean, I would need somebody like that to again compete. Sukhrov right now he wants to be an accountant, so he's going to a different field. But no matter where I am, what space I am, I think I always need competition. Without the competition, I don't need the drive to do better. I'll get too comfortable where I am. Like I need people to beat my record so I can set new ones. I need people to always challenge me. Like I like it. I want it because like it's like it challenged me and I do better. If not, then I can't grow. Like I need that constant push, constant somebody doing something. Like the other day, when you got your 9, actually, I told Sukhrab, I was like, hey, like, do you want to like take IELTS again? And he was like, don't go down that route. He's like, don't. Because I was just like, people are getting 2, 3, 4. And I was like, you want to do it again? And he was like, let's not go down that route. We have other goals. We have other missions here. If we go down this route right now, it's just, what is it going to get us? Nothing. What? You want the X2 next to your name? Is that it? He said that. And then I was just like, I was like, okay. I was like, I came down. Because it was like, well, you just want the X2 next to your name. That's why you're going to spend like XYZ hours to go get another one. So like it kind of hit me and I was like, okay.
Is it really not worth it?
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
You like listening to podcasts?
Podcasts? Yeah, like when I'm free, like when I'm not, when I'm at the gym sometimes, like if I'm like cardio, I hate cardio. So like when I'm doing cardio, podcasts usually help me if it's like interesting. I just listen to it. I see like what they're saying, or like if I'm doing something, like sometimes I cook, for example, because living in a dorm, like my parents, nobody's there, so I gotta cook sometime for myself. During those times, like I need to make sure I'm doing something else. So I always like listen to podcasts.
So what do you listen to?
I mean, it might sound because I grew up there, like Impulsive, Logan Paul.
Oh yeah,
I love it's controversial.
Yeah,
of course.
It is.
And then I watched Georgienko, his, because they had a fight and then they broke out.
That guy actually blew up on the internet.
Yeah.
After his podcast with Andrew Tate.
Yeah. Right. I'm a big fan of Andrew Tate also, but like I don't. But
what's your favorite quote of his?
Andrew Tate?
Yeah. He's got a lot of quotes, right?
What color is your Bugatti? Probably that one. It has a really deep meaning for me. Like when people come and judge you for something, like I'm like, where's like okay, like when somebody like is like, for me, I hate criticism, but I like it when it's coming from somebody above me. So when people start judging me or telling me like, oh, you're not doing this or you're not, I tell them like, we're not in the same place. We're not in the same level. Don't give me advice. I don't need your advice. I'm a little arrogant in that type. But if it's somebody older than me, or I know they can give me that advice, I just be quiet and I say, okay, I take it in. I say, okay. But like, I guess that, like, what color is your Bugatti? Like, I love that. But I watch a lot of Andrew Tate, like, videos, too many, actually. I guess, like, my whole thing, like, when I tell that to people, they're like, oh, you're a misogynist. You're probably a sexist. You're this, you're that. And I'm like, I'm not. I just like his message. Like he has a really good message, like about how he says like, oh, a man is supposed to protect and provide. He should do this, and like he defines different gender roles. Something in the U.S. people tell you, U.S. you have freedom of speech. You don't. You don't have freedom of speech in the U.S. A lot of people say like, oh, in the U.S. we can say whatever we want. We can't. If you're against their general ideas, you're gonna go down. Like there's a reason why I'm not currently in any debate teams, mock trials, MOOC course in my university. There's a reason. The big reason is because when I was there, I was silenced. When I try to give them my opinion, when it goes against their belief and doctrine, what they're trying to push, they just say no. And they kick me out, or they say like, you cannot say these things here. I tell them I'm giving my opinion. They're like, no, you're not allowed to. There was even a time where during a class discussion, I didn't refer to one of my classmates with the right pronouns because it was at the heat of the moment. It was a debate. I couldn't control. Like, I'm not trained to mention another pronoun. If I see he, I see a he. If I see she, it's just a natural thing for me. And I wasn't able to. And the professor called me over after class and said, if we will sign you up for some classes on gender identity for you to learn about gender identities. And if you don't complete the course, we'll kick you out of the university.
And you had to do it, and you did it.
I did, of course.
What did they? All right, that's getting super interesting now.
That is.
What did they teach you there?
Oh, you have to. Not everybody's born the same way. People have different gender identities.
Yeah, how many genders they told you there are out there?
No, there is. It's a spectrum. See, I'm really knowledge. It's a spectrum.
All right, please enlighten me.
It's a spectrum. Like, you can feel, like, some people just feel the way they do. Like, if they feel this way, they can be this. And we must support them in their thing. My doctrine is, like, what I believe is, you can be who you want. I don't care. I'm not going to touch you. I don't care about you. Do what you want, but don't put it on me. Don't, like, make me think about it, and don't, like, come near me or my, like, idea or my headspace. Like, you can be who you want. Like, I don't have any hate or anything towards people who identify as something else. That's what I say in America. Like, every single time, like, I don't have hate towards you. I just don't want to interact with you. That's it. Like, you can have your own life. I just don't prefer it. Like, that's it. And I try my best to get away from those type of scenarios or situations, because I have really strong opinions and beliefs that the university doesn't think that it's good and I should be really, really inclusive. I just say, okay. Like, I gave up at the end. There was a really, really heated debate once we have something called the bystander intervention training, which is if you're at a bar and you see your friend and something's happening, she's getting assaulted, something happening. If you're a bystander, you must go and intervene. If you see something happening, if you see something, say something, basically. Don't just be a bystander. If you see assault taking place, rape taking place, something else, go and intervene. We had a class on that in my freshman year, bystander intervention training. During that, one of the instructors said, if you're anytime at a bar, to the girls, usually the female population, if you're anytime at a bar, it's never your fault if something happens to you. It's never your fault if something happens to you. And then I said, well, and this is what I said, if you're drinking to the point where you don't know who you are, and you're at a bar, you're in that space, and something happens to you, you should take responsibility for that. The whole room just came at me. They were like, you don't know what you're they said that it was victim blaming. They said that I was in the wrong. And this is what I said. I said, imagine you're walking to a high crime neighborhood, waving $100 over your head at night. If somebody comes and robs you, of course there's people out there, stupid people out there, bad people out there. But it happened, right? There's still bad people out there. I'm not saying the person who did the assault, the rape is a good person. They should be whatever, like they should get their punishment. But you are taking a level of responsibility, and they didn't like my response. And the whole 100 people in that room, it was a big auditorium. Everybody came at me. I defended my point one by one for all of them. And then at the end, when I was done defending my point, they called me over. And then they said, well, can you wait? We're going to call somebody down here to educate you on this. Because it was actually our senior class teaching the freshmen. I told them, I don't have time for this. I said, you have my contacts. If anything, you email me. They emailed me for 2 months. I ignored them. They were like, would you like to come down and talk? I was like, no. I was like, I don't. I was like, am I forced to? Will something happen to me academically? They're like, no, we just want to talk to you. I said, I don't want to talk to you. And I just kind of turned it down. But just in the US, a lot of people say we have freedom of speech. We can say whatever we want. It's not the case. They only want to hear what they want to hear. Like if you don't follow their propaganda and the way they believe, then you are a traitor and you don't belong there. But yeah.
All right. My mind is computing all that right now because
Yeah.
I don't think I can process all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys see a loading bar over my head right here? Yeah. Because that's so absurd just to think about that. Because it's to the point where people don't listen to reason anymore.
Exactly.
They don't listen
It doesn't matter the reason. Like
no logic.
I have classes where I have debates. Like I love debating. Like it's just I love it. That's why I want to be a lawyer in the first place. Like one time we were just having a debate in class in another class, and it's Hopkins. Like when you think of a university, and like to a lot of people who knows, when they say Johns Hopkins, they say really prestigious to get into. When you imagine the people, you imagine them to be really smart academic people that spent a lot of time and effort to get in there. And you sit in those classrooms and you try to reason with them, and they just have this belief and they don't want to bend. Like I tell them like, hey, let's have a good argument. Like the one time in class, professor told us like I encourage arguments. So a lot of times this is what I do. Even if I believe something, if everybody's going the one way, I go the other way. Even if I don't believe it, and I try to argue it to bring this side to this side. I do that a lot. And sometimes when I argue in class, people say, oh, you're so arrogant. You don't listen to others. And I tell them, no. Like in class, I literally stop, I listen to others and I respond. But my ideas usually go against the general idea, like in terms of opinion. And everybody just tells me like, hey, like you're wrong. Like you're just not like, you're not right. Like you're just in the wrong mind. Like you're not like, you're insane. Like, so in my university, like there's a cancel culture in the US, the cancel culture. It's so strong. It's so much. And that's why in high school, I was part of student government, so many things. In here, I'm not. I went to student government. One of the president of Hopkins' student body he had to resign from what I heard. He had to resign because he had a controversial idea. Nobody told me what the controversial idea was, but he had to resign. They told him either you resign or we kick you out. So he resigned. So like, I say this all the time to students who are going from Uzbekistan to the US. Please, when you go, don't get too much into the controversial things. Like for example, right now, Palestine, Israel, right? I tell students, like all these encampments, because it's happening in Hopkins, a lot of Muslim body, I'm friends with them. I say, it doesn't matter. What are you doing? I say, you're not making any difference. They say, we're making difference. We're doing this. I tell this to a lot of students. First of all, don't get involved in the controversial things if you're not like there and you cannot back yourself. And second, have a purpose. Like these encampments, like have you heard about these encampments and like these universities, like Columbia University, having these camps, like revolting against the president of the university, saying we need to call end and like divest from Israel.
They even had Senate hearing on that, I guess.
Yes, they did. And a lot of these universities right now, Harvard, Brown, all these universities, their students are, and I told them like Columbia went fully online. I said to all the Muslim students that are doing it, I said, you guys are so dumb. And they're like, why? And I tell them, you're not going to achieve anything by doing this. The worst is still going to happen. If you want to make a change, go to the DC. In New York, there's so many government buildings. Go to government buildings and protest. You're protesting at your own university, putting people's academic, basically, path at risk, because now some people who have to graduate, they have to take their finals online. They have to go back to their homes. Like you just disrupted the education that was going on there because of something that's going on in another country. Sure, you can have family there. You can be involved there. But it's an educational institution. And by going there, you made an agreement to be peaceful and to actually abide by the university. Like, for example, you go into a classroom. You have a freedom of speech to talk, right? You can talk. But if the teacher is talking, you're expected to be quiet. Same thing in a university. When you're in a university, you have the freedom of speech to do whatever you want. You can do camps. You can revolt. But it's an educational institution. Don't like mess up the affairs of the institution and you'll be fine. So like these things, like a lot of these things, like especially the international students, I always tell them, stay away. You're an international student because although America says we're a free country where freedom of speech is valued, it's not. Don't give too much of your opinion because like at the end of the day, they can just kick you out, revoke your visa and other things. Like me personally, I'm a permanent resident. They can't really revoke my visa or anything. They can still expel me from their university. But I say like, Like just be very, very careful in your actions, like when they're there.
Your university can't be, all that bad. Do you have any upsides you can think of
University? Well, no,
of studying at your university?
Of course. Kids are like, okay, great. Academically, they are great. Like these kids are some of the greatest people, have done so much research. Networking is awesome. The main difference between a top university and a low-ranked university is not the education. People always say this education is better. One of the lowest ranked universities in terms of education is Harvard, actually. Harvard has something called, they have a GPA inflation. Like I have a professor from Harvard who says, oh, we just give everybody an A at Harvard just because we're not allowed to give Bs. So like there's a great inflation. So I always tell students, you don't go to these prestigious universities for the education. You go there for the network. So people you see are either rich, have rich parents, or super smart. So these students will be a lifelong networking people for you. Like some of my friends, I have a friend whose father owns one of the biggest law firms in New York City. He knows how I am. He knows how I argue. He's had classes with me. And he always says like, you need to meet my dad. His dad is the name partner at that thing. He always says, you need to meet my dad. You're just like my dad. Like you need to meet him one day. You need to like, that is what I want. I will meet his dad one day. Maybe he's going to like, when I apply for a job there, like it's good. That's what you want from these universities, the networking opportunities. It's great. A lot of people want to be lawyers and, not lawyers, engineers and doctors in Hopkins. And in the future, my best friends are right now becoming doctors. So if I ever have any problems, God forbid, if I ever have problems, everybody will have health problems at that some point. I can call up a friend who like was my roommate and just say, hey bro, how are you? Like I have this health problem. What do I do? And just speak to one of the best doctors in the world at that time. So like for me, networking is the number one thing for these universities, for the top universities like mine.
And how do students get into those universities? Walk us through the admission process.
Yeah, I'll go through the admissions process like really, really like thoroughly, but like as quickly as I can. First thing is top universities, right? SAT, IELTS. Why do you need these things in the first place, right? Everybody asks, why do I need SAT? First of all, GPA system in Uzbekistan, like compare presidential school to public schools. How easy to get a 5 is it to get a 5? And then compare that to US schools, compare it to private schools. Every country, every school has a different GPA system. They cannot measure your intellect, your intelligence, your academics by GPA. So they need something standardized. That's the SAT. That's where the SAT comes in, to see if you're standard, like your exam. Now, a lot of people tell me, you have a 1600 SAT, are you smart for these universities? No. What does an SAT test you? SAT 1600 means I have the academic discipline to study for an exam and get a high score. Exactly what these universities want. For example, Harvard, Yale. The first question they ask is, before they even look at your application, they look at your stats because they made it mandatory recently, the stats. They take out your stats, they take a look and they say, can this person survive at our university? Can he survive academically? Is he fit? Can he study for an exam and pass it? Right? So that's where the SAT comes in. That's why you need a high score. AP classes, A levels, SAT, all these things proves to a university that, hey, I can go there and I can study well. That's the first thing you need to establish. If you don't, you have a really hard case to make to these universities. Because even if you're the best person in the world, how can they measure that you're academically fit to go there? That you can study for an exam and pass it? Because at the end of the day, university is just you taking midterms, finals, over and over again. Just you taking exams. You just need to show a pattern that you have done that before. That's where the SATs come in. But let's say there's about 100,000 high schools around the world, and one student in each high school is the best in their class, 1,600 SATs. Harvard has a 3% acceptance rate. I'm just going to use Harvard as an example all throughout my explanations. When people say Harvard accepts 3 out of 100 students, I say no, they don't. They accept 3 out of 100 talented, very smart people who think they can get into Harvard students. So out of this very intelligent group, they take 3 students out of 100. Now, that's the first thing you need to realize, is that how competitive it is. So even if you have the stats, you can have the 1,600 SAT, you can have the 9 IELTS, 5 in all of your AP exams, you can still not get in because you're just a robot. You're just like any other person who's applying to these universities. Like, you're not competitive at all. Now, you go into the second stage. What is the second stage? The second stage is, who the hell are you? Like, who the hell are you? Now, in this sense, this is something that a lot of students do not take into account. Let's say we have our own little university here. Let's say at Astra University, right? You have to get 100 students this year. You have 10 departments in your university. You have the chemistry department, political science. You must take 10 students per department, or else one of your departments will go out of business. Professor will no longer be needed. So every single year at university, if there's a 70% IT majors, some of them, even if they're qualified, they will not get in just because of their major, because they need to fill their quota for their major. That's number one. Number two, in order to fund at Astra, you need some rich kids whose parents are donating you money. So there are a lot of students whose parents are donating so much money, they accept them just because of the money. Another thing, they need to make 50% male, 50% female. And now in the US, they need to include diversity. They need to include some from all genders that they have. So they do that. So sometimes these things you cannot control. Your socioeconomic status, your gender, your major, these things are something you just do. You don't know.
So say I identify myself as a dog. Is there a possibility I can get in?
with that, that's why they had something called the affirmative action recently. They got that thrown out. Seeing your identity, where you're from, your gender shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got that recently abolished in the books, but they still have it. 100%, they still have it. They still want to promote that diversity. Another thing, they want to make sure they get students from all countries and all states in the US. So New York, it's super competitive compared to like Idaho in the US, where there's nothing, right? So after taking all these things into consideration, they need to create the most diverse class they can. Another thing, they need to get one student who came from a poor background, became rich maybe, somebody who moved around. They need to create a class with different personalities. So sometimes, even if you have the academics, even if you have the stats, the research paper, the extracurricular activity, you put all work in, 100% you're fine. But your personality type doesn't fit with their university, or they already accepted somebody like you, you're not gonna get accepted. You're just gonna get thrown out. So I tell a lot of students, sometimes it's not up to your decision. You just cannot do it. Don't be mad if you don't. It's okay. And it
doesn't mean you're not intelligent.
It doesn't mean you're not, or it doesn't mean you're not qualified to get in. It just means you're just bad out of luck. You were just not lucky enough. Another thing, it's a research. You need to show you're academically curious all the time. That you are always in look for something. You think about something and you do a research on it. Because you go to any university's website right now, whether you go to Harvard, Yale, you go to Florida University, any university, you go look at their professor, the number one thing you see on their portfolio is their research. They want to see that. So you need to do a research. Now, I can talk about a little bit about my research, what I did, just a title of my research.
Yeah, sure.
It was Effects of Soviet Union on the Culture of Uzbekistan. I said, why is it that Uzbekistan celebrates New Year? It's a predominantly Islamic country. Although it's a secular state, it's still a predominantly Islamic country, but everybody celebrates Christmas, almost like New Year. But Pakistan, who has the same stats in terms of Islamic population, doesn't. And that was the Soviet Union having some of its effects on the US, on the Uzbek culture, and it's changing a little bit. So that was mine, and I did that with a professor from U Chicago. I just cold emailed so many professors, hoping to get one back. I went into Harvard's website, Yale. I emailed about 500 professors around all the universities. About 20 got back to me. About 5 gave me some comments. 1 decided to work with me. And that's all you need. And that improved my chances, because when I was telling universities, I said, I did a research paper with Professor XYZ from XYZ University. That really boosted my application. Another thing you do have to do is extracurricular activities.
Before you move on to that, can you explain to our viewers right now what cold email is? Use the term cold email, right? This is you email someone randomly.
No, cold email is basically you put the same format. So let's say you put, hey, so professor name, this. You take the same format, change professor names, change your the just thing, and just send it randomly to as many professors as you can, hoping you'll get one answer back. So for example, let's say if I say cold text all the Niners right now, you just go to 20 IELTS 9 people who got in Uzbekistan, or 30, and you just say, hey, can you help me with my IELTS? And one will respond to you. like, right? So that's like cold emailing. That's like, so I used to cold email a lot of those professors.
And did they ask you anything for in return for doing you a favor?
Never.
They don't.
They usually ignore you if they don't want to talk to you, because you have to say, I'm a high school student who's really interested in your research in XYZ. I am creating a similar research in this. So you have to do a little bit of research on that first, on that professor. You can't just cold email. But I did, and then I say it. They either say yes, or they say, sorry, I don't have a lot of time. Or they say, well, sure, send me some of your drafts. I'll take a look at it, and I'll give you some comments regarding to it. And then usually you'd work that out with the professor and you'll do it. But I had that drive, I guess, to email 500, 600 professors. Just sit there and just email them, look into them, email them. Which is why I think I got into like a lot of top schools, because people usually, like the people who got in from Uzbekistan, they usually get into 1 or 2 top schools maximum, and that's it. Like you got to get lucky with 1 or 2. But I had like 6 or 7, because I made sure that, like you said you got to work so hard that like it's not an achievement. Like you can do it any day. Like IELTS 9, you said you can just go down and get it because you worked hard enough for it. You know you can do it on demand. Same thing with me. Like right now, I applied to Cornell and Columbia as a transfer student. Like I know I can do it. I have the academics. I got into Cornell full scholarship. I'm waiting for Columbia now. So same thing. Like I knew I could do it just because I was like, I don't think I can fail at this point because of how much I put in. And I just applied to like 40 top universities, send it to all of them, and then just hoping, like seeing which one I would get into. And I did get into a multiple of them. So that is the importance of research.
Wow. That's very impressive. I don't know what to say, really.
Yeah. And I will now talk about the most important thing in college application, like just the last most important thing. It's a passion project. You need to give yourself a personality in your thing. It's personal branding. You need it. People say it sells well, but XYZ. No, I really believe in that. In personal branding, what does that mean? You need to define who you are at the end of the day. You have your essays, your supplements telling you who you are, and you have something called a passion project. You need it. For me, this was my passion project. When I was in high school in the US, a lot of immigrants started coming to my school. They didn't speak English. Nobody guided them. One day I was doing a translation for an Uzbek parent who was with their kid at school. And then the Uzbek parent is saying, my kid is a great student. In Uzbekistan, he was the top of his class. In here, he just doesn't understand his teachers. Nobody can support him academically. What do I do? And at that time, it hit me. And I created something called the Multilingual Support Club at my school for students from China, Korea. It doesn't matter. If you're an immigrant who doesn't speak a language, I'll find a student who does speak your language. And every day after school, you'll get help socially. That was one of my biggest passion projects, is that I created a multilingual support club because when I came to the country, I didn't have that support system. So I wanted to create a support system for other immigrants like myself. And that was like me doing that. And I think that was one of the biggest reasons I got into all the top schools, because it was a passion, something I genuinely did because of who I was before and what I hope to achieve in the future. And I think that kind of like put a big like personality on who I was, because I was an immigrant from Uzbekistan. It showed it in my application. I was an immigrant who came from Uzbekistan and did really well academically, top of his class. And not only did he do that, but he made a change in his community by like reflecting on who he was when he came here. That was my reasoning to Hopkins, because I talked to my admissions officer. I said, why did you accept me? And he said, you founded 3 clubs. I founded Multilingual Support Club, Finance and Investing Club, and College Research Club at my school. He said, every single time you see a problem, you just go and fix it and you create something. You just don't wait. So he said, that's why I accepted you, because even though it's small, you made a small impact. It's like 10, 20 people, you made an impact. So that's the reason that you were accepted, because of that personality you had. That's what my Hopkins
I think you
thing.
just gave away secret sauce for successful admission application.
Yeah.
It should be that.
It should have an impact. You should have some type of impact. It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to like build something in Uzbekistan. You don't need a lot of money. Like just go help. Like the Abdul Aziz, who got into Harvard recently from Uzbekistan. He said like one of the things he did was when he used to go back to I think he's from Khorazm, I think. When he used to go back there, he said he used to go to tourists and help them around to make sure they don't get scammed. So he used to say, oh, there's a lot of people who scam you guys, so I want to help. He went and he helped. It was just something a little student did not big, but it shows your personality and it shows like an impact that you are willing to make. So it's all about the impact you're making. You can be a perfect A student, a robot, an academic weapon. You can have everything, research. But if you don't have that humanity part, like to show that, like, because at the end of the day, keep one thing in mind. Harvard, Yale, all the presidents go there. All these people went there. What is their goal of accepting you? After you graduate, you need to show that you will become something more important. You need to show that you will bring fame to them, you will bring money to them, because it's a business too. Like if you really look at it that way, but they want to see that you are somebody who will make an impact and bring good things to their name, and that you can actually provide something in the future. But yeah, that is like the overview of the admissions process.
So to put it in a nutshell, number one thing you need to get the stats right.
Yes.
Number two is work on your application, do research papers. And number three, you need to do some other extracurriculars like help your community.
Passion projects.
Projects.
Or
That's what you
extracurricular
call them.
activities. Like you can do internships, other stuff, but passion project, because a lot of top school candidates have them.
Yeah.
Like it does really make your case for you a lot of times.
Getting into foreign universities, U.S. universities in particular, is not as simple as showing up to a test venue and doing a test, right? Because that's the way it works here in this country.
It's so much different. There's so many things that gets into it, especially the top schools. And a lot of people say, can I get into a school? Oh, they say, oh, I went to this agency. I'm working with this agency. And as somebody who has like my own agency in admissions, I tell students, like, you don't need me. Like, you don't need me. Like, sure, I should be business and I should sell to people, but I tell them you don't need me. I never had anybody helping me. If you're really as hardworking as you think you are and you say you are, you don't need somebody who's helping admissions. If your heart's in the right place and you do your own research and you work hard, you can do it. You don't need me. You don't need my admissions course. You don't need my support. You can come to me and say, hey, I just need 1 to 2 advices, get advices from these people, but you don't need to like get into that, because if you're really like self-sufficient, you can do that on your own as well. Like you don't need any like big companies, like for example, like Freshman Academy or this, you don't need them. If your heart is in the right place and you can do it, you don't need anybody helping you. You just need like yourself and that motivation, like that discipline that you have. But yeah.
But that's a lot of gold advice about university admission.
Yeah.
People need to hear that. Students need to hear that. You know, sitting here listening to you made me want to go back to school and apply. I'm seriously actually thinking about that right now, because all the energy and the competitive aspect of things, I missed it so much. Yeah. Because in the adult world though, your biggest currency, your biggest asset is peace. Yeah. Like when you're young though, you have to be super, super competitive.
Yeah. It's a cutthroat world out there.
It is. But once you grow up and once you're in charge of a business, you have to learn to be more empathetic. You have to try to, put your mind at ease so you can think, so you can kind of focus. And you can't be driven by your impulses. You can't be angry at someone, or you can't be doing something because you're trying to prove someone wrong. That's not what I'm saying.
But the reason I think the difference exists is I don't have anything to lose. I'm just a student.
Yes.
I don't have anything to lose. Like you have a career, you have a family, you say you have something to lose.
That makes you a very, very dangerous guy.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, because I don't have anything to lose. Like if I don't work right now, my parents, they're supporting me. They can take care of that. Other things, I can do anything. I'm impulsive because at the end of the day, like what's the worst that can happen? But if I had a family, for example, I need to take care of. If I had like dependents or responsibilities, at that time, you have to be really cautious. You need to be peaceful. You need to work. You have so much on your mind. I don't. Like whatever drives me, I just go to that route right now and without thinking about anything. Like
imagine having this mentality for the rest of your life. Imagine what kind of a beast you'd be.
Yeah. I would always tell myself when I was a kid, I'll be a president. I would say I would be the president of Uzbekistan one day. Like as a kid when I was growing up, I would say like that's my end goal. But I don't know. Like I'll see. Like I don't know where life will take me, because year by year I'm becoming more and more mature. Like for example, me compared to last year, that's something I'm learning. I reflect. I learn. Like this year, at the beginning of the year, I set a goal for myself. Like I was like, 2024, I'll get 9 in IELTS because I didn't have it. I was like, I'll get a 1600 in SAT. I was like, I'll keep up a 4.0 GPA at Hopkins. I was like, I'll work out to make sure I have good. I studied for the LSAT. So all these things I had in my goal sheet, I'm done with like almost all of them. I have 1 or 2 left, and this year is like at its half. So like now I'm like, okay, I like in June, after June, I'm gonna set a half of the year mark and say I'm done with everything. I'm gonna set new goals for myself because I achieved them in such a short time. But yeah, like you always gotta like kind of set that for yourself and like kind of keep going. Yeah.
You know what I'm laughing? It's just what you have here is so precious. It's like a gift.
Yeah.
What you have, this energy.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is blessed with that.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. All right. So we hit the 2.5 hour mark.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we did.
All right.
So it was a long podcast, but it felt like only 2 minutes. I don't know how you guys felt, but I'm sitting here learning so much from someone a lot younger than me, and I could not be thankful enough for you to coming on the show and sharing all this. But before we end this, I got a few more questions I want to get through. So we have kind of a tradition here. We like to end things on a philosophical note, right? So 2 questions I got for you. One is, all right, let's make it 3.
Okay.
So what's your personal philosophy? What's your philosophy in life?
On life?
Yes. What drives you right now? And I know philosophy is something that changes over time, like as you grow older, as you mature. But what is something that drives you at the moment? At this moment in time?
To be the best. That's the first thing I can think of. Like every single time I think about what drives me, I always think about like my dad, and he says, if you're not the best at what you do, don't do it. Like if you're doing something, like I always look at like the other people as my like if you're entering a sphere, like this is my philosophy on life. Any sphere, doesn't matter what sphere you're on. If you see that somebody is performing better than you, I'm not gonna say somebody's better than you. If they're performing better than you, you need to say, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And then try to kind of like fight for that and kind of go always. Like for me, fulfillment is all about like you setting goals for yourself and achieving them. And every once in a while, appreciate and look back and say, okay, have I come, like how far have I come into that route that I had? Like 1 year ago, I wasn't there. Like even now, of course, I'm in a constant state of like saying, it's not enough. But once I reflect and I say, where was I a year ago and where am I now? Like in terms of like me doing my admissions business, in terms of me doing my IELTS stuff, SAT, in terms of me finishing university, transfer application, preparing for law school, like juggling all those things. Where am I and where was I a year ago? And I tell myself, I've come a far way. I say like, hey, you've come a far way. Like you can take a break. So I would say like to put it in short, my like just philosophy would be like, always chase something. Like always chase something. Because if you're comfortable, that's where depression comes. That's where like you start becoming sad because you don't have. If you always occupy your mind with something, it doesn't have to be something toxic, bad. If you always occupy yourself with something and have a goal for yourself, you're not going to be bored of life. You're not going to be depressed. You're not going to go out of everything because you're like, okay, I'm going to go this route and I have this goal at the end. Yeah.
So how does it feel to be your age?
19. I don't want to hit the 20 mark. Like I feel like every year when I'm seeing these new wave of people applying to universities, like I'm feeling older and older year by year. Like the other day I was sitting and thinking, my father got married when he was my age. He was 20, like 19, 20, because I'm about to turn 20, and my mom was 18. And me seeing that, because my parents were hinting like, oh, how many years do you have left? And I'm like, whoa, I am nowhere near done with my goals yet. Like, leave me alone for the next 4 to 5 years at least, so I can at least finish with my law school and create the life I want, and then I will think about it. Like, I don't want to think about it right now. So being my age, I think one thing I'm so thankful for is I figured out what I want to do. Like, because I think a lot of people have problem with knowing what they want to do in life, but it doesn't mean that I know right now, doesn't mean like 2 days later I can, like, sometimes I have that crisis. Like do I really want to be a lawyer? Do I want 100-hour work week? Like, what would be my path after that? Like, I still have those battles in my head of, I still don't know, I have that uncertainty, but still to some degree, I know what I want to do in the future, which keeps me calm. But I think at our age, like people who are 19, 20, just in general, like, and being an Uzbek culture, I would say, like, if you don't have things figured out, don't make any commitments, whether it's family commitments or other commitments. Because if you're constantly changing and you want to grow, I think once you have a family, like and then you have something to lose, because you need to provide for your wife, your kids, you're going to have other things, because in the Uzbek culture, once you are married, then you need to have kids. You have the pressure. You always have that pressure. And then that whole life, now you're at a completely new place and you have other thoughts in your head. I think right now that I'm free of those thoughts, and I'm so thankful for that, because if I was at a space where I need to think about providing, I need to think, like, I don't think I could handle that right now. Like, I would just like have to cut back on so many of my goals. So I think I need to first fulfill that.
Yeah. So enjoy being a bachelor while you can.
Yeah. To put it in short, yeah, exactly.
All right. And what's one piece of advice you have for all of the 15 and 16-year-olds out there watching us right now? Or what's something you would say to your 15, 16-year-old self if you had a time machine and could go back in time?
If I was my 15, 16-year-old self, first of all, this is what I would tell myself, because people always look for motivation. Like, people are like, they watch my content or other content. Like, I have a Telegram channel. They're like, motivation. Like, that's their main goal. So like I would say, like, put all that away. Like, think about your life, because one advice that I got, and I kind of realized I didn't get, I realized this, was this. I used to say, like, I don't like studying for tests. I don't like studying for IELTS. I don't like studying for exams. I don't like doing this. And then I used to tell myself, does my dad like waking up at 4 a.m. to go and do taxi? Does my mom love going and looking after these old people that she doesn't even know every day? Like, do they like that? No, right? They don't. They're doing something they hate now to provide a better future for me. So let me do something I hate now, so for the rest of my life, I can do something I love. I can find my passion and do something I love. So, okay, like, if you got to sacrifice these 2-3 years until your mid-20s, sacrifice those years. It's okay, because your friends will go to parties, and it's okay if you don't join them. Sure, enjoy yourself once in a while. I'm not saying deprive yourself of that party life, but like, if you get sucked into a bad friend group, if you get sucked into a bad like habit, I would just say pick your head up, because 5 to 10 years from now, like, you're gonna see the difference, and just set those goals for yourself, because a lot of people, they think too small, in my opinion. Just think big, just go big. Say, hey, I'm gonna do this, because at the end of the day, if you set a really high goal for yourself, even if you don't achieve it, you'll be so much far from where you were before. So, like, this is what I do for myself all the time. I tell myself I'm going to become the biggest admissions thing, like admissions basically help in like the world. Like, first I was like Uzbekistan, and then I was like Central Asia, and I'll do it the world. Like, even if I don't end up there, by the time I graduate law school, I will be one of the best in Uzbekistan. Like, people will know my name. So, like, have that drive, have that motivation, have that discipline, and like, whatever it is around you, you can get discipline from, get discipline, not motivation. Because motivation, you wake up today, you have it, tomorrow you don't have it. But if you have discipline, like, you will do it whether you like it or not. I think that is very, very, very important, like, for a lot of students. But yeah, that's all.
Shoot for the stars, you'll land on the moon, right?
Exactly. Yep. Shoot for the stars and you land on the moon.
Yeah. And don't count on passion, because passion.
Yeah.
Passion
and
is
motivation.
temporary.
Yeah. They're all temporary.
Right. Wow. That was, you know what? I never thought I'd one day get educated so much by someone a lot younger than me. I personally want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing with me all these insights, life stories, and the energy, most importantly, because that's my currency. Mm-hmm. And has given me drive, motivation to even work harder to try to keep up with you guys, because then I kind of feel like I'm getting old and losing my edge. But I still got a lot left in the tank. All right, I'm still coming after you guys. I want to go and come and kick your butt.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, thank you so much also for having me on the podcast. When you did reach out to me, I was going nuts. I was telling all of my friends like, oh my God, he called me. I have one of my friends who loves you also. And I was like, oh my God, he called me. But thank you for giving me this opportunity to come out and say these things, because a lot of times people have my Telegram channel or other things, like they know glimpse about my story, but they don't really know who I am. So it was like, first of all, a chance for me to come and like put straight about who I am and why I do the things I do. But it was also like really, really nice meeting you, because I was a big fan. Like I've been following your channel for a while, and I was like, okay, finally a time I'll meet him. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's all, mutual. It was real pleasure having you on the show today. It was such a blast. Can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and leave us your comments in the comment section below. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.